Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Snoozy Scientist, where we gently explore the mysteries of our world, one sleepy yawn at a time. Whether you're listening from your bed, curled up in a warm nest of blankets, or drifting through that quiet space where thoughts begin to blur, you're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, we're diving into the deep ocean to examine some of the scariest creatures ever captured by human eyes. The ocean makes up more than 70% of our planet's surface, yet 80% of it remains unexplored. In fact, we know more about Mars and the Moon than we do about our oceans. But now, with the advancement of technologies like underwater drones and deep diving submersibles, new creatures are being discovered every year. Creatures so alien, so otherworldly, that even scientists are left staring at the footage in disbelief. Some of them are even older than the dinosaurs, shaped by millions of years into forms beyond anything our imagination can prepare us for. Tonight, we'll drift slowly and patiently into their world. But before we continue, if you enjoy videos like this, slow, soothing, and quietly packed with scientific wonder, I'd love it if you gave this one a gentle like and maybe tapped subscribe. It helps more curious minds like you find their way to this peaceful little corner of the internet. And if you'd be so kind, let me know in the comments, where are you winding down from tonight, and what time is it there? It's always a joy to see how far across the world this little sleepy corner of science travels. Now take a deep breath, close your eyes, let your shoulders soften, and let's begin. Far beneath the rolling waves, in the cold black layers where light can never reach, something moves with a grace that feels ancient. For centuries, sailors told whispered stories of sea monsters with arms as long as masts, eyes like lanterns, and a strength that could drag a ship into the abyss. They called it the Kraken, a myth, they said, a warning tale to keep men wary of the open sea. Scientists dismissed it as folklore, a mix of fear, imagination, and the strange shapes that shadows take on in the deep. But the truth was always there, hidden just out of sight, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. The giant squid lived in that realm of disbelief, hovering between legend and reality for hundreds of years. Carcasses would wash ashore on remote beaches, long, pale arms tangled in seaweed, tentacles ending in rows of sharp suckers. But no one had ever seen one alive in its natural world. It was like trying to prove the existence of a ghost. The evidence was there, but the living thing itself remained unseen. That changed in 2004. Off the coast of Japan, a team of researchers lowered cameras deep into the black water, baited to lure in whatever predators might be curious enough to investigate. Hours passed in silence, then a flicker, the faint suggestion of something impossibly large moving just beyond the frame. Slowly, it emerged. Pale flesh, rippling muscle, an arm stretching toward the camera. The footage was grainy, imperfect, but unmistakable. A living giant squid, in the wild, caught on camera for the first time. It was a moment that turned myth into proof. In the still images that followed, one detail stood out: the eyes, larger than any other creatures in the animal kingdom, some measuring nearly a foot across. These eyes are natural telescopes built for the deep. Down here, where sunlight is a distant rumor, a giant squid's eye can catch the faintest glimmer, the silhouette of a predator like the sperm whale, its greatest rival in the deep. With such vision, the squid can sense danger long before it's near, giving it precious moments to either fight or flee. And when it chooses to fight, it is a spectacle of raw power. The giant squid's tentacles are not merely arms, they are weapons, each lined with suction cups, some ringed with tiny razor-sharp teeth. They can grip with enough force to leave scars on the skin of a sperm whale, scars that marine biologists have studied as one of the earliest clues to the squid's true size and strength. The main body, or mantle, is thick and muscular, propelling the squid with sudden bursts of speed when it needs to lunge or escape. Rare as the sightings are, the moments we have captured are unforgettable. In one piece of footage taken by a deep diving submersible, the camera drifts quietly along the ocean floor, its lights carving out a narrow tunnel of visibility in the black. Out of nowhere, a long pale arm curls into view, followed by another wrapping cautiously around the metal frame. The squid doesn't flee from the machine, it studies it. The texture of the tentacle, covered in suction cups, presses close to the lens, distorting the image with each movement. The encounter lasts only seconds before the squid releases its grip and vanishes into the darkness, leaving the viewer with the strange, unsettled feeling of having been examined by something intelligent. For all we know now, there is still so much we don't understand about these giants. How many are there? How far do they travel? What other mysteries do they hold in the black corridors of the deep? Tracking them is nearly impossible. They live in the vast midwater zone, hundreds to thousands of feet below the surface, far from the reach of casual observation. Their bodies are built for a life in this extreme world, soft enough to withstand crushing pressure, flexible enough to twist and turn in the tight spaces between rock and current. And then there is the matter of scale. Some confirmed specimens have reached lengths over 40 feet from the tip of the mantle to the ends of the tentacles. To stand beside one would be like standing next to a city bus that could move, think, and hunt. The young are small, almost delicate, and yet they grow into predators capable of wrestling with whales that weigh many tons. Life in the deep has made them opportunistic hunters, able to take down fish, crustaceans, and even other squid. But perhaps what is most haunting is that they are never fully at the top of the food chain. Even something so large must always watch for its own hunter. It is in this delicate balance of predator and prey that the giant squid has perfected its survival over millions of years. And while we may have the technology to film one now, each sighting is a rare gift, a reminder that there are still places in this world where human presence is a fleeting visitor. The ocean holds on to its secrets tightly, and the giant squid remains one of its most guarded treasures, a living shadow in the deep, revealing itself only when it chooses. And as we drift deeper, away from the pale flicker of those great eyes, the water grows colder, the darkness more complete. But somewhere ahead, another shape moves, something stranger still, with hooks instead of suction cups, and a presence even more elusive than the one we've just met. Farther south, where the seas are colder than ice and storms roll endlessly across a gray horizon, there lives a creature that makes even the giant squid seem almost ordinary. In the remote waters of the Southern Ocean, wrapped around the frozen continent of Antarctica, something vast and powerful moves unseen beneath the swells. Here, the water is so frigid that it numbs the skin in seconds, and yet life exists in forms so adapted to the cold that they thrive where others would perish. This is the realm of the colossal squid, a predator so rarely encountered that for decades its existence was known only from scraps pulled from the stomachs of whales and fragments tangled in fishing gear. The colossal squid is not just a larger version of its giant cousin, it is heavier, stockier, built with a kind of muscular bulk that speaks to raw strength. Some estimates suggest that the largest individuals may weigh close to half a ton, their mantles thick and powerful, their arms and tentacles thicker than a man's leg. And then there are the hooks, swiveling, razor-sharp weapons lining some of the suckers along its tentacles. Unlike the giant squid, whose suction cups can leave scars, the colossal squid's armory is designed to pierce and shred. Each hook can rotate, twisting like the blade of a knife as it digs in, making escape for any captured prey nearly impossible. Because it lives in the deepest, coldest waters, direct encounters with the colossal squid are almost unheard of. No human has filmed one alive in its natural habitat. Every image we have is from the rare moments when the creature is brought to the surface unexpectedly, usually by fishing vessels working in Antarctic waters. These sightings are not the result of targeted expeditions or deep sea cameras. They are accidents, sudden, brief meetings between human industry and a creature that would otherwise remain a phantom in the dark. One of the most famous of these encounters happened in 2007 when a New Zealand fishing boat hauling up its lines found something tangled among its catch. At first, the crew thought it was another giant squid. Large, yes, but nothing they hadn't seen before. Then they began to notice the differences: the bulkier body, the reddish pink skin, the terrifying gleaming hooks. As the full length of the animal emerged from the water, it became clear they were looking at one of the largest and most intact colossal squid specimens ever brought to the surface. The creature was still alive, its tentacles curling and uncurling in slow, deliberate movements, its massive eye, larger than a human head, rolling toward the light. Even half frozen, it was an awe-inspiring sight, a rare moment when the deep gave up one of its greatest secrets. These colossal squids are believed to be ambush predators, lying in wait in the freezing dark until prey, often large fish like the Antarctic toothfish, drifts within reach. Their hooked tentacles lash out, the barbs sinking in, the arms pulling the struggling animal toward a sharp parrot-like beak capable of slicing through flesh and bone. In this icy realm, speed is less important than power, and the colossal squid's body is built for quick, explosive bursts of motion, followed by stillness, conserving energy in the near-freezing water. Sperm whales are known to hunt them, diving deep into the Antarctic waters in pursuit of these giants. Some whales return to the surface bearing fresh scars, deep gouges that match the hooks and beak of the colossal squid. These scars are a silent record of battles fought in the blackness far below, where two of the ocean's most formidable hunters meet in violent, unseen clashes. The squid is not always the prey. Its size and weaponry make it a dangerous opponent even for a whale weighing tens of tons. Studying the colossal squid is like trying to solve a puzzle with almost all the pieces missing. Scientists have only a handful of specimens, and even these are incomplete or damaged from the process of being brought up from the depths. Much of what we believe about them comes from comparing their anatomy to other squid species, and from the marks they leave on the animals that hunt them. No one knows how deep they can truly dive, how long they live, or how many exist in the icy waters around Antarctica. For now, the colossal squid remains a mystery, a reminder that there are still predators in this world that science has only glimpsed in passing. Down in those Antarctic depths, the cold is unrelenting, the water so clear and still that sound carries for miles. The colossal squid moves in this world like a shadow, perfectly at home, perfectly adapted. Its eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom, drink in the faintest traces of light, detecting the shimmer of a fish's scales or the approach of a predator from a distance that would be impossible for most other creatures. It is a survivor of extremes, proof that life can not only endure but thrive in the most hostile places on Earth. And just as suddenly as it appears in the nets of a fishing vessel, it disappears again, back into the dark, leaving only a trail of speculation and wonder behind. But as we leave the icy waters of the South, our path takes us toward warmer currents and a predator of a different kind, one with a mouth so vast it can swallow prey whole, gliding silently through the dark as though the deep sea itself had opened to feed. In the vast and shadowed highways of the deep sea, where the water presses in with a steady, unyielding weight and the darkness feels endless, there drifts a creature unlike any other shark on earth. It does not rush like the great white or explode from the depths like the mako. It moves with a calm, steady rhythm, as though it has all the time in the world. And perhaps it does, for this is a shark that has spent millions of years perfecting a way of life that is as strange as it is mesmerizing. The first time the world met the megamouth shark was not during an expedition or a scientific dive. It happened by chance, as so many deep sea discoveries do. In 1976, off the coast of Hawaii, a U.S. Navy ship was anchoring equipment when something massive became tangled in its sea anchors. When it was brought to the surface, the crew found themselves staring at a shark unlike anything they had seen before: a rounded head, enormous eyes, and most striking of all, a mouth that seemed impossibly wide, lined with hundreds of tiny teeth. This was the very first documented megamouth shark, and it marked the birth of a new chapter in marine science. Since that day, sightings have been incredibly rare. Decades have passed, and fewer than 200 confirmed encounters have been recorded worldwide. Most people, even those who study the ocean, will go their entire lives without seeing one alive. The deep sea is their refuge, far from the eyes of the curious, and they rise toward the surface only on rare occasions, often under the cover of darkness. What makes the megamouth so unusual is not just its size, though at over 15 feet long, it is an imposing presence, but the way it hunts. Its head is large and blunt, leading to a jaw that can stretch open like a great black cavern. Around the edges of its lips are bands of luminous tissue, believed to glow faintly in the water. In the pitch black of the midwater zone, this subtle light could act as a lure, drawing in small drifting animals called plankton and jellyfish. The shark simply cruises forward, mouth agape, letting the water and whatever it carries pass through. Inside its mouth, rows of tiny hooked teeth and fine gill rakers filter the food from the seawater, much like a giant net in motion. Unlike the sleek, torpedo-like predators that race through the open ocean, the megamouth moves slowly. Its wide, soft body sways gently with each sweep of its tail, conserving energy in the nutrient-sparse depths. This unhurried pace, paired with its immense mouth, gives it an almost otherworldly look, as if it were drifting in a dream. In the rare video footage we have, the shark glides through the beam of a submersible's lights, its mouth hanging open like a glowing doorway in the darkness. The surrounding water seems to fold into it, disappearing into that vast cavern before the shark slides away into blackness once more. There is still so much we don't know about this elusive animal. Scientists suspect it spends most of its life far below the surface, perhaps thousands of feet down, following the daily migration of plankton as they rise toward the surface at night and sink again at dawn. Tagging studies have hinted that megamouth sharks may travel great distances, possibly across entire ocean basins, yet they do so invisibly, hidden beneath the waves. Encounters with them often come from fishing boats that accidentally pull one up in deep nets or long lines. The fishermen describe them as calm and strangely passive, even when handled, nothing like the thrashing fury of other large sharks. Their skin is smooth and dark, blending into the depths they call home, and their eyes seem to gaze past the world above, as though it's a place they barely recognize. There's a kind of quiet dignity to the megamouth shark. It doesn't need speed to survive. It doesn't need teeth like knives or the raw aggression of other predators. Instead, it has carved out a life in the deep that relies on patience, stealth, and the slow sweep of its luminous mouth through the water. It's a reminder that in the ocean, power doesn't always come from force. Sometimes it comes from endurance, from knowing how to move with the currents instead of against them. Watching one in motion is hypnotic. The light catches along its pale underbelly, fading into the darker shades of its back until the entire creature looks like it's been painted to match the sea itself. Its open mouth is rimmed with soft folds and illuminated edges like a theater curtain, drawn back to reveal the mysteries within. Each slow beat of its tail seems deliberate, as if it is measuring out its movements carefully, unwilling to waste the energy it has worked so hard to collect from the tiny life drifting through the deep. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it is gone, slipping back into the black waters where no light follows. The beam of the submersible fades into empty space, and all that remains is the slow movement of plankton, stirred by the giant's passing. Yet somewhere out there, the megamouth continues its journey, mouth open to the endless ocean, quietly harvesting the invisible rain of life that drifts through its world. Deeper still, beyond the slow, graceful passage of the megamouth, the water grows colder, the pressure heavier. The light of the lure gives way to a different kind of glow, sharper, more focused, like a single deadly lantern swaying in the dark. In the shimmering layers where the deep sea begins to meet the light, there is a creature so strange and so rare that its sudden appearance has for centuries stirred whispers of sea serpents and omens from the deep. Long and ribbon-like, with a body that can stretch the length of a bus, the oarfish glides with a slow, undulating motion that makes it seem more like a living banner than a fish. It is the longest bony fish in the world, reaching up to 36 feet, and yet it moves with a gentleness that feels almost fragile compared to the predators that share its ocean home. For most of its life, the oarfish remains far below the waves, in depths where sunlight fades to silver and the water is cool and still. Its body is slender and flattened, a sheet of silver that shimmers faintly even in the gloom. Along its back runs a bright crimson dorsal fin that ripples like a flame, starting at the head and running nearly the entire length of its body. The head is small in proportion, with large dark eyes that seem to take in everything. The mouth, delicate and toothless, is designed not for biting, but for filtering small plankton and tiny creatures from the water. It is a peaceful feeder, content to drift through the open ocean with slow, sweeping motions of its long body, mouth open to the life floating all around it. Its rarity has made it the stuff of stories. For hundreds of years, sailors who spotted an oarfish near the surface described it as a serpent, a long, glistening body breaking the water in slow, deliberate arcs, a crest of red trailing like a mane. The sight of such a creature out in the open sea must have felt like an intrusion from another world. With no frame of reference, early mariners could only liken it to the mythical sea serpents of legend, believing they had glimpsed a monster from the depths. These tales traveled far, carried in harbor taverns and written in logs, adding to the mystery of the uncharted ocean. Today, we know that the oarfish's appearances near the surface are usually rare and fleeting. They are deep water dwellers, and when they are seen at or near the surface, it often means something has disturbed them, changes in currents, sickness, or, as some scientists have suggested, the vibrations of an approaching earthquake. In several coastal regions, particularly in Japan, the sudden washing ashore of an oarfish has long been seen as an omen of seismic activity. While the connection between their behavior and earthquakes remains a topic of debate, the timing of some sightings has been uncanny enough to keep the association alive in both local lore and scientific curiosity. Because they rarely survive long in shallow water, most footage we have of oarfish comes from chance encounters. A diver might be exploring a reef edge when a long silver ribbon begins to glide past, moving with a smoothness that makes it seem weightless. In underwater video, the oarfish doesn't dart or flee like most fish. Instead, it rises slowly, vertical in the water, its head angled upward as its long dorsal fin ripples in perfect rhythm. In the open blue, its shape is mesmerizing, a streak of living silver and red drifting through a world of endless space. The sheer length of the oarfish is difficult to comprehend when you see it in motion. It is not a bulky animal. In fact, its body is surprisingly thin for its length. But when you trace that shimmering ribbon from head to tail, you begin to understand why it has inspired awe for so long. A 30-foot oarfish moving through the water is a vision that commands attention, not because it is fast or aggressive, but because it is unlike anything else. It is a reminder that the ocean is not only a place of predators and danger, but also of beauty so alien that it feels like magic. One of the most striking aspects of the oarfish is how it swims. Rather than flexing its body side to side like most fish, it keeps its long frame almost perfectly straight, relying instead on the rippling motion of its dorsal fin to propel it forward or upward. This method allows it to maneuver with incredible precision in the open ocean, moving vertically or horizontally without disturbing the water around it. Observers have noted that this vertical swimming posture might help the oarfish camouflage itself among the shifting shafts of light that filter down from above, making it almost invisible from below. When brought up from the depths, whether by currents, illness, or the pull of a fishing net, the oarfish often cannot survive for long. Its body, adapted to the steady pressure of deep water, struggles near the surface where conditions change rapidly. These moments, though tragic, have given scientists the chance to study their anatomy more closely, to trace the fine bones that run like threads through their long form, to understand the structure of their fins, and to learn more about how such a delicate giant lives in the vastness of the open sea. Still, for all we've learned, the oarfish remains a mystery. How long do they live? How far do they travel in their lifetime? Do they gather in groups, or do they wander alone for years through the open ocean? The answers are hidden far below, in the silent blue corridors they call home. And somewhere in that deep, endless water, the slow ripple of a crimson fin might be moving upward even now, toward a point where light and air meet, carrying with it a shape that once inspired sailors' fear and wonder in equal measure. But beyond the quiet grace of the oarfish lies another deep-sea wanderer, one with a mouth so vast it seems to open like a trap in the dark, a predator whose very shape defies the rules of the shallow world above. In the dim, still waters far below the sunlit world, where pressure builds like an invisible weight, and the cold seems to seep into bone, there drifts a predator unlike any other. Its presence is ghostly, a pale pinkish figure that looks less like a modern shark and more like something lifted from the fossil record. In fact, it is. The goblin shark has been called a living fossil, a species so ancient that it has remained largely unchanged for millions of years, its ancestors swimming the oceans at a time when early humans did not yet exist. To see one alive is to peer into the deep ocean's memory. What sets the goblin shark apart is not just its age or rarity, but the strange, almost unsettling design of its body. Its skin is soft, loose, and tinted an eerie shade of pink. This color is not from pigment, but from the fine web of blood vessels visible beneath its semi-translucent skin, a sign that the goblin shark lives in waters where camouflage is less about blending with coral or sand, and more about melting into the pale, muted world of the deep. Along its flattened snout, sensory pores pick up the faint electric signals given off by prey, letting it hunt in near total darkness without relying on sight. But it's the jaw and what it can do that makes this shark so unforgettable. Unlike most predators, whose mouths open on a simple hinge, the goblin shark's jaws are set on an intricate elastic framework. When it strikes, those jaws snap forward at alarming speed, extending far beyond the rest of the head to seize prey in a sudden lunging motion. In slow motion footage, the jaws uncoil like a trap being sprung, teeth jutting forward in a curved skeletal arc before snapping shut and retracting again. It is a movement so quick and so alien that even seasoned marine biologists have been startled watching it. The teeth themselves are long and narrow, more like curved needles than the serrated blades of a great white. They are perfectly shaped for gripping slippery fish, squid, and crustaceans, the kind of prey that darts and twists in the gloom. A goblin shark strike is often a two-part movement. First, the long snout and sensory pores detect the prey's location. Then the jaws rocket forward, snatching it before it even has time to react. Once caught, the prey is drawn back toward the throat in one smooth, fluid motion. Most of what we know about these sharks comes from rare encounters. They are not common in shallow water, preferring the slopes of continental shelves and submarine canyons hundreds to thousands of feet below the surface. Fishing vessels sometimes bring them up by accident in deep nets, and these moments offer fleeting chances to study them before they are returned to the sea. But the truly haunting images come from submersibles and ROVs, remote operated vehicles that capture them in their element. In the glow of artificial lights, a goblin shark's skin appears almost translucent, its pale body gliding slowly through the dark until, in a flash, the jaw shoots forward and the deep returns to silence. The way it moves is not the restless patrol of an active hunter. Instead, the goblin shark drifts with slow, deliberate motions, conserving its energy until the perfect moment arrives. Living in the deep means that food can be scarce, and survival depends on patience and precision rather than speed. Its long, flat snout, sometimes called a rostrum, gives it a permanently unusual silhouette, one that has caused more than a few startled reactions when unexpected footage appears online. Because of its unusual look, the goblin shark has been called everything from the vampire shark to the alien of the deep, and it's easy to see why. There is something unsettling about the way it seems both ancient and otherworldly, a predator that feels like it should belong to another age entirely. And in a way, it does. Its lineage stretches back over 100 million years, a survivor from a time when giant marine reptiles roamed the seas and dinosaurs ruled the land. The first scientific description of a goblin shark came in 1898 from a specimen caught off the coast of Japan. Since then, they have been documented in scattered locations around the world, from the Gulf of Mexico to the waters off South Africa, and yet they remain elusive. There is no reliable way to predict when or where one might be found. They seem to be wanderers of the deep, moving with the shifting currents and the availability of prey. Perhaps the most fascinating part of seeing one alive is watching that jaw mechanism in action, a movement that defies expectations and reminds us how much of the ocean's engineering is still a mystery to us. Even in high definition, the strike is over in the blink of an eye, the pink blur of the shark's head replaced by the sudden jutting of bone-white teeth, and then just as quickly, the face we recognize returns, calm and unhurried, as if nothing happened. The goblin shark's appearance might seem almost gentle compared to the brutal image of other sharks, but its precision as a hunter is unmatched in its environment. In the deep, where light is scarce and the cold is constant, everything has adapted to survive in ways that often look strange to us, and the goblin shark is a perfect example of that adaptation. It does not need speed or brute force to rule its patch of the ocean. It has patience, stealth, and a jaw that turns the stillness of the deep into an instant, decisive attack. And beyond the slow drift of its pale body, deeper into the shadows, there are other predators shaped by time and darkness, creatures with bodies like eels and mouths that open wide enough to swallow prey whole, waiting in the cold currents for their next encounter. In the quiet sloping edges of the ocean floor, where the continental shelves fall away into the deep, there moves a predator that seems more at home in the pages of prehistory than in the modern sea. Its body is long and sinuous, shaped less like the muscular frame of a great white and more like the slender coils of an eel or a snake. Its skin is dark and rough, its head slightly flattened, and its mouth armed with rows upon rows of needle-like teeth that curve backward, ready to snare anything unlucky enough to swim too close. This is the frilled shark, a living relic from an ancient ocean, a creature that has changed little over millions of years. Its name comes from the 6 pairs of frilled gill slits that run along the sides of its head and neck. Unlike the smooth, simple gills of most sharks, these are edged with frilled folds of skin, giving them a ragged, almost ornamental look. But there is nothing decorative about this animal. Those gills are built for efficiency in the deep, oxygen-poor waters where the frilled shark spends its life. It glides slowly through its territory, conserving energy in the cold darkness, yet capable of sudden explosive bursts when the opportunity for a meal appears. The frilled shark's movement is different from most of its relatives. Its long, flexible body allows it to swim with a serpentine motion, undulating through the water rather than powering forward with the rigid thrusts of a typical shark's tail. This gives it an eerie, almost otherworldly grace, as if it were drifting between two worlds, one ancient, one present. The effect is mesmerizing in footage captured by deep-sea cameras, the long, shadowy form weaving slowly through the beams of light, its gills flaring gently with each breath. One of the most striking aspects of the frilled shark is its feeding strategy. While some predators chase down their meals, this shark relies on stealth and patience. It approaches prey with slow, deliberate movements, closing the distance without alarming its target. And then, in a sudden flash, it lunges forward, mouth opening wide to reveal those backward-pointing teeth, more than 300 of them arranged in multiple rows. Once something is caught in that mouth, escape is almost impossible. The teeth act like barbed hooks, snagging flesh and pulling the prey deeper in with each movement. This hunting method allows the frilled shark to take on surprisingly large prey, sometimes fish nearly half its own length, and in rare cases, even smaller sharks. Its jaws are designed to stretch wide, and its throat can expand enough to swallow such meals whole. In the deep, where food can be scarce, this ability is a survival advantage. Instead of relying on frequent small catches, the frilled shark can consume a large meal and go without feeding again for days or even weeks. Sightings of the frilled shark in its natural habitat are rare. Most encounters happen near continental slopes, where the seafloor drops away into deeper waters. Here, at depths often between 500 and 1,000 meters, deep-sea cameras sometimes catch their long shapes sliding past, the light glinting off their rough skin for a moment before they vanish into shadow. On occasion, one will be brought to the surface by fishing nets or deep trawls, its body limp and dark against the deck. Out of its natural environment, it appears almost fragile, its skin softer, its body less rigid. But in the deep, in the world it is built for, the frilled shark is a master of survival, a slow-moving hunter that has perfected its role over millions of years. Its lineage stretches so far back that it predates many modern sharks, belonging to a group that has seen the rise and fall of countless ocean species. In many ways, it is like looking at a preserved page from the ocean's evolutionary history. And yet it is no relic of the past. It lives, hunts, and reproduces in the present, just as capable a predator now as it would have been in the ancient seas. One of the more mysterious aspects of the frilled shark is how little we know about its life cycle. Females are thought to have an extraordinarily long gestation period, possibly the longest of any vertebrate, with estimates suggesting that they may carry their young for more than 3 years before giving birth. This slow reproduction rate, combined with its specialized habitat, makes it vulnerable to environmental changes, though the depths it inhabits have so far kept it largely safe from the pressures faced by species in shallower waters. The frilled shark's presence is a reminder that the deep ocean is still home to creatures whose forms and behaviors seem untouched by the passing of time. It thrives in a part of the world where the rules are different, where energy is conserved, patience is rewarded, and survival depends on adaptations honed over countless generations. And as it slips silently through the cold blue darkness, its body weaving in quiet arcs, it is easy to imagine how a sudden shadow or flicker of movement could become its next meal. Just beyond, the deep holds other predators just as strange, creatures with armored shells, sprawling legs, and a slow, deliberate crawl across the seafloor, searching for scraps in the endless night. Far below the restless churn of the waves, where the water is cold enough to sting and the darkness feels heavy, the seafloor stretches out in a vast, silent plain. Here, movement is slow, deliberate, and often unseen, and moving among the scattered rocks, deep sea corals, and drifting silt, there is a creature that looks strangely familiar, yet entirely alien. Its shell is segmented, its legs small but steady, its antenna sweeping the ground as it walks. At first glance, it could be mistaken for a common pill bug, the kind found under garden stones, but this one is the size of a dinner plate. This is the giant isopod, one of the deep ocean's most patient scavengers. Despite its size, the giant isopod is not a predator that chases down prey. It is a slow, methodical creature, adapted for a world where food is rare and often comes in sudden, unexpected abundance. The deep sea is a place of feast and famine, and the isopod has learned to make the most of every opportunity. Its body is armored, with overlapping plates that give it both protection and a strange prehistoric elegance. Beneath that shell, its many small legs work in a steady rhythm, carrying it across the soft sediment of the ocean floor. Its eyes are large, faceted like those of an insect, built to pick up the faintest traces of movement in the darkness. Its sense of smell and touch is heightened, allowing it to detect the faint chemical signals of a meal from far away. And when it does find food, it doesn't hesitate, whether it's the remains of a fish, a squid, or something far larger. Some of the most haunting footage of giant isopods comes from deep-sea cameras placed near whale falls, the term for when a whale's body sinks to the ocean floor after death. In the pitch black, the huge shape of the whale lies still, its flesh slowly drawing scavengers from miles around. Out of the darkness they arrive, first in ones and twos, then in dozens, crawling over the massive body, their segmented shells gleaming faintly in the artificial light. The giant isopods move with slow, determined purpose, their small claws pulling away strips of flesh, feeding steadily and without waste. It is not a hurried feast. Down here, nothing is rushed. The isopods may feed for hours, even days, their bodies swelling as they gorge themselves to store energy for the long stretches when food will be scarce again. Their metabolism is slow, an adaptation to the deep that allows them to survive weeks, even months, without eating if they must. And so they feed carefully, pulling and tearing, their antennae twitching as they work, their armored bodies clinking softly together when they cross paths. For all their eerie appearance, the giant isopods play a crucial role in the deep sea ecosystem. They are part of nature's cleanup crew, breaking down and recycling nutrients that would otherwise remain locked away in the carcasses of fallen animals. Without scavengers like these, the deep would be littered with bodies, and much of the energy stored in those remains would never make its way back into the food chain. In this way, the giant isopod helps sustain life in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Their behavior is fascinating to watch. They approach a meal slowly, pausing often, almost as if in thought. Once they begin feeding, they tuck their antennae in close and use their front legs to pull food toward their mouths. The motion is small and mechanical, repeated over and over until they have taken what they need. When full, they sometimes burrow slightly into the sediment, resting in a half-curled position, much like their tiny land-based relatives. Here they remain still, conserving energy, waiting for the next scent of food to drift by in the current. The size of these creatures is difficult to appreciate until you see one next to something familiar. At over a foot in length, and sometimes closer to 2, they dwarf the insects and crustaceans most people are used to. Their sheer bulk adds to the sense of strangeness, as though a familiar creature had been enlarged far beyond its natural proportions and dropped into an alien world. Yet their design is perfectly suited to the life they lead, tough enough to resist predators, sensitive enough to find food in darkness, and patient enough to endure the long, empty stretches between meals. They are not aggressive toward one another, even in the middle of a feeding. Instead, they seem to work side by side, each finding its place on the carcass, each taking its share. In the silence of the deep, the only movement is their slow crawling and the gentle swaying of their antennae. There is something almost hypnotic about it, the steady rhythm of creatures that have been performing this same task for millions of years. And just as they arrive quietly, they leave the same way. When the meal is finished or the disturbance of lights and cameras fades, the isopods slip away into the darkness, their pale shells blending into the seafloor. They vanish one by one, leaving behind only the stripped bones of whatever creature they had been feeding on, the last traces of life in a place that knows more about waiting than rushing. From here, the path of the deep takes us past the slow-moving forms of scavengers into the realm of hunters that make their own light, where a single spark in the dark is both a lure and a warning, and where a mouthful of needle teeth can appear in an instant from the black. Far from the reach of the sun, where the ocean becomes a silent, endless night, there drifts a hunter that seems born entirely from shadow and light. It is slender, almost eel-like, with a body so dark it can seem to disappear into the water around it. Only when it moves, or when its own light stirs, does it reveal its presence. This is the black dragonfish, a predator as strange as it is haunting, and one of the few creatures in the deep to master a trick almost no others can perform. The black dragonfish is not a large animal. Most grow no longer than the length of a ruler, but what it lacks in size it makes up for in design. Its jaws are lined with long needle-thin teeth, curved like hooks and nearly as transparent as glass. In the dim light of a submersible, these teeth flash only for a moment before vanishing again, the perfect camouflage for a hunter that must strike unseen. It swims with a smooth serpentine motion, each movement so controlled that it barely stirs the water, an important skill in a place where even the faintest disturbance can give away your position. Its most remarkable weapon, however, is its light. Many creatures in the deep sea can produce light, glowing blue or green signals that shimmer in the dark, but the black dragonfish has a secret advantage. It can create red light, a wavelength that most deep-sea animals cannot detect. In the abyss, red light doesn't occur naturally. It is absorbed quickly by water, disappearing within the first few dozen meters from the surface. To the majority of deep-sea life, red light simply doesn't exist. Their eyes never evolved to see it. The black dragonfish uses this to its advantage, shining an invisible spotlight into the darkness to search for prey without being seen itself. Along its body, small photophores, organs that emit light, create faint patterns that can be switched on or off at will. These patterns can serve as camouflage, breaking up the fish's outline so it blends into the scattered glow of drifting plankton. But the red light produced from a special organ under its eyes is what makes it a true silent hunter. With this hidden beam, it can scan the water for the reflective glint of scales or the shape of an unsuspecting animal, and then with a sudden lunge, those needle-like teeth snap shut around its prey. Rare footage of the black dragonfish has been captured by remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, offering fleeting glimpses into its shadowed world. In the artificial light of the camera, its skin appears almost oily, a deep brown black that swallows the glow around it. The eyes are large and reflective, adapted to catch even the smallest trace of light in the darkness. When the ROV drifts closer, the fish sometimes hovers in place, its long body undulating slowly, as if deciding whether to flee or disappear into the gloom. And then, with a flick of its tail, it vanishes, its darkness swallowing it whole again. Even more haunting is the ghostly glow it sometimes displays, faint blue-green points of light running along its sides, glimmering like a constellation. These are thought to serve multiple purposes, helping the fish hide from predators by mimicking the faint light above, or perhaps signaling to others of its kind in a language of pulses and flickers. But this light is cautious, fleeting, and never bright enough to give away its true position for long. The black dragonfish's body is adapted for survival in an environment where food is scarce and danger is constant. It can open its jaws extraordinarily wide for its size, allowing it to swallow prey nearly as large as itself. Its stomach can expand to hold more than it might eat in a single sitting, a necessity in a place where the next meal could be days away. And while it may appear delicate, its muscles are built for short bursts of power, enough to overwhelm prey before it has a chance to react. It is also one of the rare examples in the deep sea where the sexes look very different. Females grow much larger and possess the long, fearsome teeth and light-producing organs. Males, on the other hand, are far smaller and lack functional teeth entirely, living only long enough to reproduce. This unusual difference means that the females are the active hunters, carrying the responsibility of feeding and survival in the vast emptiness. To watch one in motion is to understand just how perfectly it fits its world. It moves like smoke underwater, its body folding and flowing as though it has no bones at all. The photophores along its flanks shimmer faintly, turning off and on like someone dimming a lantern. And all the while, the invisible red light sweeps ahead, unseen by everything it hunts. In the deep, where blue and green are the only natural colors of light, the ability to see in red is like having a private vision of the world, one no other creature can steal. This secret has allowed the black dragonfish to thrive in a place that swallows most life into silence and shadow. It hunts in plain sight, but only in its own spectrum, its prey unaware until it is far too late. And beyond the path of that hidden beam, deeper in the gloom, another shape begins to form, a mouth that can open like a net, stretching wide enough to engulf creatures whole, its body built for sudden, startling transformations in the endless dark. In the silent black of the deep ocean, where the water feels more like a vast, weightless night than a place on earth, some creatures have evolved in ways that seem to break the rules of nature entirely. Drifting in this endless dark is a predator whose shape changes in an instant, transforming from a slender ribbon of a fish into something almost unrecognizable. This is the gulper eel, a hunter whose greatest weapon is not speed or teeth, but its extraordinary mouth. At first glance, the gulper eel looks almost delicate. Its body is long and whip-like, its thin tail tapering to a point. It swims with slow, measured sweeps, conserving its energy in the cold, nutrient-poor depths where food can be scarce. The head appears small in proportion to its body until it opens its mouth. In a heartbeat, the jaws swing wide, the skin of the mouth stretching out like a balloon, the lower jaw dropping into a vast, gaping scoop. What was moments before a modest fish suddenly becomes a living net. The gulper eel's mouth can expand to a size that seems impossible for such a slender frame, large enough to engulf prey even bigger than itself. This is not a quick snap like the bite of a shark or the lunging strike of a goblin shark. Instead, the gulper eel's feeding strategy is about volume. In a place where the next meal could be days away, it pays to take in as much as possible when the opportunity arises. Once the prey is inside, the gulper eel's flexible stomach stretches to hold it, keeping the energy stored until the eel needs it. This remarkable adaptation allows it to target a wide range of animals, from small fish and squid to creatures nearly half its own length. It is not a picky eater. Anything that drifts into range can be scooped up in the sudden expansion of that cavernous mouth. In the deep, where light is absent and hunting is often blind, such a strategy can mean the difference between survival and starvation. Footage from deep sea exploration missions has given us rare glimpses of the gulper eel in action. In the glow of an ROV's lights, the eel sometimes appears as a slender shadow, weaving through the dark with a slow, hypnotic movement. Then, without warning, its mouth opens into that vast, balloon like shape, the thin membrane of skin stretched taut between the jaws. Inside, the dark cavity seems to swallow the light, giving the impression of a void opening in the water. After a moment, the jaws close again, the eel returning to its ribbon-thin shape, as if nothing unusual had happened. This ability to change shape so drastically is not just for feeding, it may also serve as a form of intimidation. In a world where most creatures rely on ambush or camouflage to survive, suddenly appearing much larger than you are can startle potential predators, giving the gulper eel a chance to slip away. In the narrow corridor of light from a submersible, such displays can be startling even to human eyes, the eel's sudden transformation catching divers and scientists off guard. The gulper eel's appearance is made even stranger by its tail. At the tip, it carries a small bioluminescent organ, a lure that can glow in the darkness. Scientists believe this light may help attract prey, the faint glow drawing curious animals toward the eel's motionless body. When they get close enough, the eel simply opens its mouth and lets its trap do the work. This combination of patience, deception, and adaptability makes it a master of survival in a place where every advantage counts. In the dim light of the deep, the gulper eel's body can appear almost translucent, the thin skin showing faint outlines of muscle and bone beneath. Its eyes are small for its size, likely adapted more for detecting movement and faint glimmers of bioluminescence than for detailed vision. In the deep-sea world, eyesight is less about sharp detail and more about sensing the slightest change in the darkness around you. The slow, deliberate way the gulper eel moves between meals adds to its eerie beauty. It does not dart or rush, it glides, bending and flexing in smooth arcs. It might drift for long stretches, mouth closed, tail glowing faintly, until a shadow moves nearby, and then with a sudden fluid motion, its jaws open to take in whatever fortune has delivered. While it may seem fragile in some ways, the gulper eel is anything but. Its body is built for endurance, capable of going long periods without feeding by conserving energy and making the most of each catch. The depths where it lives are a harsh place. Temperatures are near freezing, pressure is immense, and food is rare. Yet here it thrives, a reminder that in the deep ocean, survival often belongs not to the fastest or the strongest, but to the most adaptable. Watching one disappear into the black after feeding is like watching a shadow dissolve into night. The light from the submersible fades, the glowing lure dims, and the long ribbon of its body melts into the water, leaving only the memory of that vast, impossible mouth opening like a living trapdoor. And in the vast quiet that follows, the deep offers up another of its strange hunters, one whose body glows like a lantern in the dark, and whose lure sways gently, pulling in prey that cannot resist the promise of light in an endless sea of darkness. In the endless dark of the deep sea, where light from the surface has never touched and shadows are the only landscape. Some predators have learned to create their own light. Among them is a hunter so strange, so perfectly adapted to its world, that it seems almost like a living piece of science fiction. Its body is small and unassuming, but extending from its head is a single glowing thread, a lure that sways and flickers like a beacon in the black. This is the deep sea anglerfish, one of the most haunting and ingenious predators in the ocean. It waits in stillness, letting the darkness wrap around it like a cloak. The lure, technically a modified dorsal spine, arcs forward over its head, ending in a bulb called the esca. Inside the esca, colonies of bioluminescent bacteria produce a cold, ghostly light. The anglerfish can control the brightness and movement of this glow, dimming it, brightening it, or making it pulse to mimic the flicker of a small drifting animal. In the deep, where light is rare and often means food, this faint glow is irresistible. Curious creatures draw closer, drawn by what they think is prey. They never see the wide, jagged mouth until it's too late. The anglerfish's jaws are lined with long, translucent teeth, angled inward to keep anything from escaping once caught. Its body is soft and somewhat gelatinous, built for slow drifting rather than speed. In this world, hunting isn't about chasing, it's about patience and deception. The anglerfish doesn't waste energy, it simply waits for its prey to come to it, relying on the hypnotic pull of its light to do the work. In rare footage captured by remotely operated vehicles, the deep sea anglerfish looks almost like a small shadow drifting in the black, the lure glowing faintly in front of it like a tiny lantern on a line. It hangs there completely still except for the gentle sway of the lure. Then, in a flash of movement, the mouth opens impossibly wide, the jaws snapping shut on whatever wandered too close. The entire strike takes less than a second. But as strange as its hunting method is, it's the anglerfish's mating strategy that truly sets it apart from most other animals. In many species of deep-sea anglerfish, males are tiny compared to females, sometimes only a fraction of their size. In the vast emptiness of the deep, finding a mate is incredibly difficult, so evolution has solved the problem in a way that is both efficient and astonishing: sexual parasitism. When a male encounters a female, he bites onto her body. Over time, his tissues fuse with hers, connecting their bloodstreams. The male's body begins to shrink, losing its independence. Eventually, he becomes little more than a permanent attachment, a living source of sperm, entirely dependent on the female for nutrients. A single female may carry multiple fused males, each a tiny partner forever bound to her side. It's a strange and extreme adaptation, but in the deep sea, where encounters between individuals are rare, it ensures that whenever she is ready to spawn, the female already has a mate. The anglerfish's appearance is as eerie as its lifestyle. Its skin is often dark brown or black, blending seamlessly into the water around it. The lure glows softly in contrast, a single point of light in a sea of darkness. Its body shape is round and somewhat compressed, its large head dominating most of its form. The mouth, when open, seems almost too large for the rest of its body, the jawbones flexible enough to swallow prey nearly as big as itself. The glowing lure is not just for feeding, it may also serve as a signal to others of its kind, though exactly how anglerfish communicate in the blackness is still unknown. The bacteria that create the light are not produced by the fish itself. They are symbiotic partners, living inside the esca in exchange for nutrients. Without them, the lure would be dark, and the anglerfish would lose its most powerful tool. Seeing one in its natural environment is a rare privilege. The deep sea is vast, and anglerfish are solitary, each drifting in its own patch of darkness. When an ROV's lights find one, it often doesn't flee. Instead, it hangs there, motionless, as if trusting its camouflage and lure to handle whatever comes next. The footage is mesmerizing, a small glowing point suspended in blackness attached to a shadowy shape that seems both fragile and deadly. Its slow movements, its stillness, and that strange beckoning light make the anglerfish feel like the embodiment of the deep sea itself, a mix of beauty and danger, patience and sudden violence. The moment the lure sways, you can almost imagine the invisible pull it has on everything around it, a trap disguised as a promise. And beyond the tiny pool of light cast by the anglerfish's lure, the darkness stretches on, unbroken. Somewhere in that emptiness, another predator is moving, one with teeth so long they can't fit inside its mouth, a creature built for sudden savage strikes in the same eternal night. In the deepest, coldest places of the ocean, where pressure crushes down with unimaginable force, and the darkness is so complete it feels solid, there lives a fish that looks as if it has been built entirely for intimidation. Its body is small, no longer than a human forearm, but its mouth tells a different story. Jutting from its jaws are teeth so large that, in proportion to its body size, they are the biggest of any fish in the world. This is the fangtooth, a predator whose appearance alone seems like a warning from the deep. The teeth are long, needle sharp, and curve inward like hooks. Even when the fangtooth closes its mouth, they don't completely fit. Grooves in the roof of its skull and pockets along its lower jaw are needed to keep them from piercing its own head. It is a design born from necessity. In a place where a missed strike could mean days without food, these teeth make sure that once something is caught, it will not escape. The bite is not fast or elegant, it is final. Living more than 16,000 feet beneath the surface, the fangtooth endures pressures hundreds of times greater than those at sea level. Its body is built to withstand it, compact, muscular, and lacking the delicate structures found in many shallow water fish. Its skin is thick and dark, often brown or black, helping it blend into the void. The eyes are small, an unusual trait for a deep sea hunter, suggesting that the fangtooth relies less on sight and more on its other senses. Along its head and body are specialized pits and pressure sensitive organs that can detect the slightest vibrations in the water, allowing it to sense prey moving in the darkness long before it can be seen. Encounters with fangtooth fish are rare. Most of what we know comes from deep sea research expeditions and occasional footage captured near hydrothermal vents, where life clusters around the warmth and nutrients spilling from the sea floor. In these moments, the fangtooth moves with a slow, deliberate confidence, its head tilting slightly as it navigates the black water. When it strikes, the motion is sudden, a snap of jaws, a glint of teeth in the artificial light, and then the fish retreats into shadow once more. The deep ocean is not a place of constant hunting. The fangtooth is an opportunist, taking what it can find: fish, squid, and even crustaceans that wander too close. Its mouth opens wide for its size, and combined with the length of its teeth, it can tackle prey that might seem far too large for such a small predator. In some rare observations, fangtooths have been seen scavenging from larger carcasses, their teeth tearing through flesh with steady, efficient pulls. Despite their fearsome appearance, fangtooth fish are not fast swimmers. They are built for endurance, conserving energy in the cold, slow-moving currents of the deep. The water at these depths is near freezing, and every movement costs precious energy. The fangtooth strategy is patience, drifting, waiting, and striking only when success is almost certain. This efficiency is a key to survival in an environment where food may be scarce for weeks at a time. The teeth themselves are a marvel of deep sea adaptation. Long and translucent at the tips, they seem almost too large for the small, compact skull. When a fangtooth closes its jaws, the teeth slide into matching grooves, locking together in a way that ensures maximum grip. Once prey is inside, the only direction it can go is deeper into the mouth. The muscles of the jaw are strong enough to hold on to struggling animals until they are subdued, no matter how violently they twist or turn. Footage from submersibles often captures them emerging from the darkness in brief flashes, their teeth catching the glow of the lights before they vanish again. In the unnatural brightness of the camera beam, their bodies appear rough textured, almost armored. It is easy to imagine how such a creature has survived unchanged for millions of years. Every part of its design speaks to its role as a deep sea ambush predator. The hydrothermal vent regions where they are sometimes filmed are a world in themselves, towering chimneys spewing mineral rich plumes into the water, surrounded by life that thrives without sunlight. In the eerie glow of the vents, the fangtooth moves like a shadow among the other creatures, its outline only visible when it passes too close to the shimmering water. Here, in the strange warmth of the vents, there is more life than in the open plains of the abyss, and the fangtooth takes full advantage. Yet they are not confined to these rare hotspots. Fangtooth fish are known to range widely, following the trails of prey across the deep ocean floor. They may spend much of their time alone, separated by miles of open darkness from the nearest other member of their kind. In this world, every encounter with prey, with a mate, with a threat, is significant, and their adaptations reflect that constant challenge. For scientists, the fangtooth is a reminder of how the deep sea rewrites the rules of survival. Small in stature, yet armed with some of the largest teeth relative to body size in the animal kingdom, it is proof that in the abyss, it is not size or speed that determines the top hunters, but precision and specialization. Watching one disappear into the black, its teeth the last thing to fade from view, feels like seeing the ocean itself close its jaws. And farther along these cold, lightless slopes, the deep holds yet another shape, one whose head is clear as glass, eyes turned upward toward the faint light above, drifting silently in the current with a view of the world no other fish can match. In the quiet middle layers of the ocean, where the water is dim but not yet swallowed by complete darkness, there lives a fish that seems almost impossible to believe until you've seen it with your own eyes. At first, it looks like many other small deep water fish, a dark, slender body with delicate fins, drifting calmly in the slow current. But then, as the light from a submersible sweeps across it, something extraordinary is revealed. The top of its head is not solid. Instead, it is a clear, curved dome, like the glass canopy of a tiny submarine. Inside that dome, two bright green orbs float, perfectly aligned and unlike any eyes you've seen before. These are not ordinary eyes. They are long and tubular, built to collect every scrap of light in the dim twilight zone. Even stranger, they are not fixed in place. The barreleye fish can rotate them inside its own head, pointing them straight upward to scan the water above or forward when it's ready to strike. It can literally look through its own transparent skull to see the world around it. For decades, scientists knew of the barreleye only from specimens brought up in nets, their fragile heads often damaged in the process. Without the delicate dome intact, its unusual eyes were still strange, but the full picture of how they worked remained a mystery. That changed in 2009 when the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBIRE, managed to film one alive in its natural habitat for the very first time. The footage stunned even experienced deep-sea researchers. In the clear shield of its head, the green lenses of the eyes glowed like jewels, slowly swiveling as the fish hovered in the water, perfectly still except for the faint movement of its fins. The purpose of this remarkable design is survival in a world where light is scarce and predators are everywhere. The barreleye spends much of its time motionless, hanging in the water beneath colonies of drifting siphonophores, long gelatinous creatures armed with stinging cells. The barreleye is thought to use the siphonophores like living camouflage, hiding beneath their dangling tendrils to avoid being spotted. From below, it scans upward with its rotating eyes, searching for the faint outlines of small fish or zooplankton silhouetted against what little light filters down from the surface. When it spots prey, it can angle its body upward, swing its eyes forward inside the dome, and dart ahead with precision, snatching the meal before returning to its still, waiting position. The transparent dome itself acts as a shield, protecting the sensitive eyes from the stings of the siphonophores above it. In the deep ocean, where physical contact with jelly like animals is often unavoidable, such protection is essential. Without it, the barreleye's large exposed eyes would be too vulnerable. The dome also helps maintain a stable environment for the eyes, preserving their focus and clarity despite the changing water around them. In the eerie light of an ROV, the barreleye's movements are slow and deliberate. Its small pectoral fins flutter gently at its sides, holding it steady in the water. The body is dark and unremarkable, built for efficiency rather than speed, but the head glowing faintly, with the light refracting through its dome, makes it look almost like a tiny spacecraft drifting through an alien sky. When the eyes swivel, the movement is smooth, like the slow rotation of a telescope aligning with the stars. This ability to rotate its eyes is what allows the barreleye to live so successfully in its niche. Most deep sea fish have eyes locked in place, forcing them to move their whole bodies to change direction. But the barreleye can stay completely still, scanning both above and ahead without giving away its position. In a world where every movement is a risk, potentially alerting prey or predators, this stillness is a powerful advantage. The first living footage captured by Mbari didn't just confirm what scientists had suspected about the barreleye, it also revealed how beautiful and otherworldly it is when undisturbed in its environment. Watching it hover beneath the dangling threads of a siphonophore, the green glow of its eyes shifting within its clear head, feels less like observing a fish and more like watching a carefully engineered machine designed for the deep. Its diet is thought to consist mainly of small drifting animals, tiny crustaceans, jellyfish, and other soft-bodied creatures that float in the water column. By staying close to siphonophores, it not only hides from predators, but also positions itself near a steady supply of food caught by the siphonophores' stinging tentacles. With its protective dome, the barreleye can move in and take what it needs without being harmed, slipping back into place before anything notices. Seeing a barreleye in the wild is rare. They live hundreds to thousands of feet below the surface, in a zone that is too deep for sunlight to fully penetrate, but too shallow for the complete darkness of the abyss. It is a realm of shifting blues and greens, where the silhouettes of creatures above are faint but visible if you have the right eyes to find them, and the barreleye has some of the most specialized eyes in the ocean. It is a reminder that in the deep sea, adaptation takes many forms. Some creatures build speed, others armor, and others still perfect the art of patience. The barreleye's strategy is one of precision, staying hidden, scanning silently, and only moving when the moment is right. Its transparent head and rotating eyes are not oddities, they are the tools of a quiet, efficient hunter that has mastered its small corner of the deep. And farther down, beyond the twilight where the barreleye hovers, the water grows colder and the pressure heavier. In that deeper darkness, long, ghostly arms begin to unfold, arms that move with the slow, deliberate grace of something ancient, their reach stretching far beyond the length of their body. In the deepest reaches of the ocean, where light is nothing more than a memory and the water hangs heavy with stillness, there drifts a creature so unlike anything in the shallow seas that its very shape feels foreign. It is not the size of its body that inspires awe, but the impossible length of its arms and tentacles, thin, thread-like filaments that trail behind it like the lines of some vast invisible web. Each one can stretch more than 20 feet, delicate yet unnervingly precise, swaying in the dark like strands of silk. This is the bigfin squid, a deep-sea phantom that seems less like a living animal and more like something built for another world entirely. The first time humans ever saw one alive was in 1988, captured by a submersible's camera during a research dive. Even through the grainy footage, its alien elegance was clear. The body was small compared to the astonishing reach of its arms, which bent at sharp angles as if jointed, each trailing filament connected by faint, nearly invisible threads to the main length. These arms did not move with the quick lashes of a hunting squid or the restless searching of an octopus. Instead, they drifted slowly, deliberately, every motion stretched out as though time moved differently in its realm. These filaments are not simply for display. The bigfin squid is believed to use them like an enormous fishing net, dragging them lightly over the seafloor or holding them suspended in the water column. Any small animal that brushes against them, a shrimp, a small fish, even a drifting jelly, is quickly ensnared. The squid can then reel in the prey, pulling it along the delicate lines toward its small, compact body and beak. It is a hunting method built for patience, for waiting in a place where food might be rare, but the darkness hides opportunity. Watching one move is unsettling in a way that is hard to describe. The body hovers in the water, fins on either side rippling gently to maintain position. The arms stretch down and away, bending at their strange, sharp angles, the filaments swaying with a hypnotic slowness. The angles give it an unnatural, almost mechanical appearance, as if each limb were being guided by invisible joints rather than muscle. It's a vision that feels wrong only because it's so unlike the movements we expect from living creatures. Since that first encounter in 1988, sightings of bigfin squid have been rare and treasured by researchers. Most have come from ROVs exploring the ocean's deepest plains and slopes, often at depths of over 10,000 feet. In the narrow beam of artificial light, they appear ghostly and fragile, the thin filaments fading into the darkness until they seem to vanish entirely. Without those lights, they would be invisible, their pale bodies blending into the endless black. One of the most striking aspects of these squid is how much of their length is in those filaments. The mantle, the main body, might only be a few feet long, but the arms and tentacles extend far beyond it, sometimes more than 10 times the length of the body itself. Each is equipped with small suckers along its length, helping to grip prey as it is drawn in. The squid can hold its arms at right angles to its body, the filaments trailing down in a strange curtain-like formation, or extend them outward, covering an area far larger than its own size. Scientists still know little about the bigfin squid's life. We don't know how long they live, how often they reproduce, or how far they travel through the deep. The few times they have been filmed, they show no sign of fear or haste, moving with the same slow control whether the camera is close or far away. It's as though they inhabit a different rhythm of existence, one where energy is spent sparingly and every motion has purpose. In some encounters, they have been seen near the sea floor, the filaments drifting just above the sediment. This has led to the theory that they may trot their arms along the bottom, using the filaments almost like the legs of a spider to feel for and capture small animals hiding in the sand. The thought of those impossibly long limbs sweeping silently across the bottom, detecting life by the faintest touch, only adds to the eeriness of their design. The bigfin squid's rarity has made it a subject of fascination, not just for scientists, but for anyone who has seen the footage. Its alien movements, its improbable proportions, and its patience in the dark make it feel like a glimpse into the deep's oldest secrets. In the grand theater of the ocean's depth, it plays the role of the silent watcher, hanging in the black, arms unfurled, waiting for the slightest tremor to signal a meal. When the ROV lights drift away, the big fin squid fades back into invisibility. Its filaments vanish first, swallowed by the dark, then the angles of its arms, and finally the small, hovering shape of its body. Somewhere in the miles of water between the seafloor and the faint glow above, it resumes its quiet patrol, untouched by the noise and speed of the world beyond its depths. And deeper still, below where even the faintest ROV beams have reached, there are other giants whose forms are as strange, creatures shaped not for drifting, but for gliding like vast living shadows, their bodies trailing arms so long they seem to disappear into the night behind them. Far below the reach of sunlight, in waters where the cold feels ancient and the darkness presses in from every side, there moves a creature so strange and so rare that most people will never see it outside of a fleeting piece of grainy footage. Its body glows faintly in the artificial lights of a deep sea rover, not with bright flashes or aggressive colors, but with the soft shimmer of something that seems too delicate to belong to our world at all. It is the giant phantom jellyfish, a name that fits it perfectly, because in the deep, it really does look like a drifting ghost. Its bell alone can stretch to 3 feet across, wide enough to swallow a grown person if it were solid, though this dome is nothing more than thin, living tissue, flexible, fluid, pulsing slowly to keep the animal moving through the water. From beneath this great bell extend 4 long ribbon-like arms. They do not dangle loosely. Instead, they trail with deliberate grace, drifting outward into the black, each one stretching as much as 30 feet behind it. That's the length of a city bus, yet these arms are so fluid and thin that they seem like soft banners caught in an invisible current. The arms are not for swimming, they are for feeding. Unlike the stinging tentacles of some jellyfish, these arms are covered in frilly folds that help sweep plankton and small prey toward the jelly's central mouth. In the deep, where food can be scarce and movement costs precious energy, this design is perfect. The jelly doesn't chase its prey, it simply spreads its arms into the water column and lets the ocean deliver whatever it will. For years, the giant phantom jellyfish was more legend than science. It was first described in 1910, but sightings remain so rare that even after more than a century, there have been only around 100 confirmed encounters worldwide. Part of the reason is where it lives, often thousands of feet below the surface, far deeper than most nets or divers can reach. When it does appear on camera, it's almost always because a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, happened to cross paths with it during a deep sea survey. And yet, when those moments happen, the sight is unforgettable. In the darkness, the jelly seems to materialize from nowhere, the bell's slow pulse making it rise and fall like a breathing apparition. The ROV lights catch the faint, smoky translucence of its body, revealing the arms curling and uncurling in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. It doesn't hurry because in the deep sea there is no rush. Every movement feels measured, as though it has been moving like this for millions of years, untouched by the chaos above. The Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, MBRI, one of the leading groups in deep sea exploration, has filmed the giant phantom jellyfish only a handful of times despite decades of dives. In each case, the footage captures the same eerie elegance, the bell suspended in the void, the arms swirling outward like a silk gown trailing in water. It's a sight that seems dreamlike, as if the jellyfish isn't so much swimming as drifting between worlds. Its ghostly presence is enhanced by the way light behaves in the deep. At such depths, sunlight is gone, and only the ROV's beams illuminate the scene. The jelly's tissue, thin and almost transparent, scatters that light in strange, soft ways. The bell's edges glow faintly, and the arms sometimes seem to vanish into darkness before reappearing again, as if they are fading in and out of existence. Though the giant phantom jellyfish looks fragile, it survives in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The pressures at its typical depths are immense, hundreds of times greater than at the surface, yet its body has no rigid parts to crush. The cold is near freezing, but instead of resisting it, the jelly has evolved to move slowly, conserving energy in the stillness. It is perfectly adapted to a world that would destroy most other life. One of the most haunting aspects of this animal is how little we know about it. Scientists do not fully understand its life cycle, how long it lives, or how far it travels. There are theories that it may use deep currents to drift across vast distances, or that it rises and falls in the water column depending on feeding conditions, but the truth remains elusive. Every sighting feels like catching a brief glimpse of a secret that slips away the moment you turn your head. The deep ocean holds many such secrets, but few are as visually arresting as this one. Watching a giant phantom jellyfish glide through the darkness is like seeing a living work of art, a creature shaped by millions of years to fit a niche we are only beginning to understand. It is quiet, graceful, and utterly unbothered by our presence, continuing its slow drift long after the ROV has turned away. And somewhere beyond the faint glow of that machine's lights, where the black water stretches unbroken in every direction, other shapes are moving, some smaller, some larger, all of them perfectly adapted to a world without sunlight. Among them are predators whose teeth catch the light like glass, their eyes shining with the reflection of a camera lens that has wandered too close. Far beneath the surface, in waters so still and dark they feel almost untouched by time, a strange living veil drifts silently through the black. At first, it's hard to even tell what you're looking at. The light from a deep-sea submersible catches something translucent, a vast sheet of living tissue that moves as though the ocean itself is breathing. It shifts, folds, and stretches, its edges curling inward like the hem of a silken gown. This is the deepstaria jellyfish, a creature so rarely seen that most of what we know comes from only a handful of encounters, each one leaving scientists and explorers in awe. Unlike the familiar jellyfish shape, the neat round bell with trailing tentacles, the deepstaria's bell is large, thin, and flexible, almost like a loose flowing bag. It can span several feet across, and instead of keeping a fixed form, it changes shape constantly. Sometimes it's wide and open, like a parachute billowing in slow motion. Other times it folds in on itself, closing into a soft, rippling pocket. This shapeshifting is not just mesmerizing to watch, it's a hunting strategy. The deepstaria doesn't have long, stinging tentacles to snatch prey from a distance. Instead, it uses its entire bell as a trap. When small fish or crustaceans drift too close, the jelly slowly folds its body inward, closing around them. Once the prey is inside, it's pressed toward the center where the jellyfish's digestive structures can absorb it. In the deep sea, where every meal is precious, this method is both efficient and beautiful in its simplicity. Its body is so delicate that it seems almost unreal. The skin is paper thin and entirely transparent, allowing the lights of a submersible to pass straight through, illuminating the internal canals like faint branching roads. As the bell expands and contracts, you can see the subtle movements of water flowing through its body, the ripples traveling outward in slow, ghostly waves. It moves with the same rhythm as breathing, yet it is not lungs pulling in air. It is the ocean itself flowing through the creature, giving it life. Deepstaria jellyfish are among the rarest sights in marine exploration. They live at depths far beyond the reach of recreational divers, in places where sunlight cannot penetrate and temperatures hover near freezing. The only reason we've seen them at all is because of deep sea submersibles and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, equipped with cameras. When explorers stumble across one, the footage always feels surreal, not just because of the jellyfish's strange form, but because it behaves as if it belongs to a slower, more patient world than ours. The way it moves is hypnotic. Unlike the quick darting motions of fish or the muscular strokes of a squid, the deepstaria drifts and undulates in long, unbroken waves. Its movements are so slow that it seems suspended in time, almost like a memory playing in reverse. As its bell pulses, the edges ripple and shimmer, catching the light in ways that make it look like liquid glass. One of the most striking things about seeing a deepstaria is how alien it feels, and yet it is entirely of this earth. Its form doesn't follow the patterns our minds expect from animals. There is no face, no eyes, no rigid symmetry, just a shape that is always changing, adapting to the currents and to its own needs. Some have described it as looking like a drifting ghost ship sail, others as a floating plastic bag, but both comparisons fail to capture the organic, graceful intelligence of its design. Even in the darkness, it is not completely alone. Tiny creatures often hitch rides inside its bell, swimming in the relative safety of its shelter. One small crustacean, a type of amphipod, is commonly seen living within the folds of deepstaria jellyfish. This is not just a harmless passenger. Sometimes these amphipods feed on the jellyfish's tissues, and yet the jellyfish seems to tolerate their presence, perhaps because in a world where resources are scarce, even a parasitic relationship can be a stable one. The encounters we have recorded are fleeting. A submersible's lights will catch sight of it. Drifting in the dark, the jelly will pulse slowly, folding and unfurling its bell, unbothered by the sudden intrusion of human technology. Then, just as quietly as it appeared, it will drift back into shadow, disappearing into the endless blackness of the deep. Each sighting leaves behind more questions than answers about how these creatures live, how they reproduce, and how many more may be drifting unseen in the cold waters of the abyss. In the deep ocean, where life takes shapes our imaginations struggle to predict, the deepstaria jellyfish is a reminder that beauty can exist without symmetry, speed, or color. It is beauty born of stillness, of patience, and of a perfect adaptation to a silent world where light is a rare and precious thing. And somewhere far below, in that same dark realm, another giant drifts, one whose body carries a faint shimmer of red and gold, and whose very name hints at a life shaped by fire and molten seas. In the silent blackness of the open ocean, far from any seafloor, and far below the reach of sunlight, a strange silhouette drifts into view. At first, it doesn't even seem real. Its body is thin, almost ribbon like, tapering into a long whip like tail. But the most startling thing about it isn't its body at all, it's the mouth. The pelican eel, sometimes called the gulper eel, has a head that seems almost too large for its slender frame, but when it opens that mouth, the entire shape of the animal transforms. The jaw swings wide, the skin of its head stretching like a living net, until the gape is several times larger than its own body. It's as if a bird's beak has been fused with the body of an eel, but the result is even stranger and more unsettling. In that moment, you realize just how alien deep sea life can be. The pelican eel doesn't chase prey with speed or power. Instead, it relies on this enormous, expandable mouth to engulf whatever drifts into range. Fish, squid, and even crustaceans, prey that would be impossible for most animals of its size, can disappear into that cavernous maw in a single slow gulp. In the deep sea, where meals are rare and unpredictable, being able to swallow something larger than yourself can mean the difference between survival and starvation. The inside of its mouth isn't lined with the rows of jagged teeth you might expect from a predator. Instead, it's more like a trap, stretching to contain its catch before slowly collapsing back down to force the food into its stomach. The head and jaw are connected by thin, almost translucent skin, which can balloon outward like a sail catching the wind. In the still water of the deep, this expansion happens in eerie silence, a motion that feels deliberate, patient, and completely foreign to the way most animals hunt. Its body, in contrast to that oversized head, is impossibly slender. The long tail is the most flexible part, undulating gently as the eel hovers in the water column. At the very tip of that tail, something unexpected glows, a tiny bioluminescent bulb that can pulse or shine faintly in the dark. Scientists believe this is a lure, much like the glowing fishing rod of an anglerfish. Small creatures, curious about the strange light in the endless dark, may wander closer, only to find themselves swallowed whole when the eel's mouth suddenly opens. When submersibles or remotely operated vehicles have caught the pelican eel on camera, it is often in these quiet moments, floating in the black taillight, glowing softly, mouth closed as if waiting for the perfect opportunity. Then, with a slow and deliberate movement, the jaw will drop open, the head expanding into an enormous, net like scoop. Even if no prey is immediately visible in the footage, it's clear that this animal is built for ambush. Seeing a pelican eel for the first time often leaves viewers with an unsettling feeling. Its movements are slow, yet there's something coiled beneath them, the sense that it could snap its mouth wide in an instant if something were to cross its path. The large head and slender body make it look unbalanced, almost awkward, yet in its own way, it's perfectly adapted for its world. In the deep ocean, where speed can waste precious energy, patience and efficiency are far more valuable. The eel's dark coloration blends seamlessly into the lightless water, making it nearly invisible, except for that glowing lure. Sometimes, in the faint illumination from a submersible's lights, the sheen of its skin catches for just a second, revealing a smooth, almost metallic texture before disappearing again into shadow. Even when you can see it, it always seems half hidden, like a shape that wants to remain part of the darkness. Because pelican eels live in the mid to deep ocean, they are rarely encountered, and most sightings are brief. Many of the images and videos we have come from scientific deep diving expeditions, where ROV cameras happen to cross paths with one. In these rare clips, the eel often seems completely undisturbed by the presence of technology, continuing to drift or pulse its tail in the same unhurried rhythm. It is a creature shaped by a world without haste, where survival is a matter of waiting for the right moment rather than chasing it down. What makes the pelican eel especially fascinating is that its appearance changes so drastically between having its mouth closed and open. With its mouth shut, it's a narrow ribbon of muscle, almost graceful. With its mouth open, it becomes something entirely different, a living, floating net capable of engulfing animals nearly as big as itself. It's a transformation so extreme that without context, you might think you were looking at two completely different species. In the deep sea, where strange and startling forms are more common than familiar ones, the pelican eel still manages to stand out, not for aggression or sheer size, but for the sheer ingenuity of its design. Its hunting style is quiet, its weapon is patience, and its appearance is the kind that stays in your mind long after the footage fades to black. And don't and somewhere not far from where the pelican eel drifts, there's another predator, one with a body built for speed and a mouth full of jagged teeth, slicing through the water with the kind of precision that turns the dark ocean into a hunting ground. In the depths where sunlight has never touched, an eerie glint catches in the glow of a submersible's lights. At first, it's hard to tell what you're looking at. A thin, elongated shape, almost motionless in the still water. But then, as it turns, you see the teeth. They are impossibly long, needle-like, curving back toward the creature's eyes, and so big that they can't even fit inside its mouth. This is the viperfish, one of the deep ocean's most efficient and aggressive predators. Its mouth is a nightmarish design of evolution, a hinged jaw lined with teeth so sharp and thin they look like they could pierce glass. When the jaw snaps shut, those teeth interlock like the bars of a trap, ensuring that anything unfortunate enough to be caught inside has no way of slipping free. In the crushing darkness, thousands of feet below the surface, vision is limited, but the viperfish has a weapon for that. Rows of tiny bioluminescent light organs scattered along its body, glowing faintly like a constellation drifting through the water. These lights serve more than one purpose. They can camouflage the fish against the faint shimmer from above, hiding its silhouette from prey looking up. But they can also be used to lure, to draw smaller animals close enough that the viperfish can strike before they realize their mistake. Its jaw is hinged in such a way that it can open incredibly wide, far wider than seems possible for a fish of its size. When it does, the head seems to split, the mouth forming a dark, gaping cavern that flashes those needle-thin teeth like blades. In that split second, the viperfish lunges forward with explosive speed, impaling prey and pulling it deep into its mouth in one fluid motion. Scientists who have filmed this predator in action describe it as lightning in the dark. One moment it's still, hovering as though suspended in thought, and the next it's a blur, the only sign of movement being the way the water seems to shudder around it. In those brief attacks, the viperfish shows the full extent of its hunting efficiency, a combination of raw speed, perfect aim, and weapons honed by millions of years of survival in a world where hesitation means going hungry. The body of the viperfish is built for this kind of sudden acceleration, long and streamlined, with powerful muscles running its length. It's able to remain almost motionless before propelling itself forward in a burst. This ambush style of hunting is critical in the deep sea, where chasing prey over long distances would burn more energy than the catch could replace. Down here, patience and precision are the only way to survive. The bioluminescent organs also play another role. Communication. While much of the viperfish's life remains a mystery, scientists believe it may use patterns of light to signal other viperfish during mating, or perhaps to warn competitors away from its hunting ground. In the blackness of the deep, light is not just a lure, but a language, one that only those adapted to this world can understand. Its eyes, large and glossy, are designed to capture the faintest trace of light, whether from another deep sea creature or the dim glow of its own photophores. When caught in the beam of a submersible's camera, the eyes reflect back in a way that almost looks metallic, giving the fish an alien, otherworldly presence. Every movement feels deliberate, from the slow undulation of its body as it hovers to the sudden snap of its jaws when prey ventures too close. Seeing one in its natural habitat is rare. Much of what we know comes from deep sea trawls or remote operated vehicle dives that happen to cross its path. In these moments, the viperfish often seems unfazed by the artificial lights. Sometimes it will glide just outside the range of visibility, the faint flicker of its bioluminescent spots marking its path like a trail of cold fire in the water. The most chilling footage, though, captures the moment of attack. 1 second, the prey, perhaps a small squid or another fish, is drifting, unaware. The next, the viperfish's body arcs, its tail whipping for speed, and the jaws slam shut with brutal precision. The teeth pierce deep, holding the prey as it's pulled into the mouth. The entire strike takes less than a second, a flash of violence in the otherwise silent dark. It's hard not to imagine what it would be like to be a small creature in this world, swimming through endless night, drawn toward a faint glimmer ahead, only to find that light attached to a mouth filled with spears. Down here, every glow could mean life or the last thing you'll ever see. And in this vast, lightless wilderness, the viperfish is far from the only predator with such terrifying adaptations. Not far away, there drifts another, one whose beauty hides a hunting strategy just as ruthless, its very shape unlike anything else in the ocean, and its head transparent enough to see the world in a way no other creature can. Far below the sunlit waves, in the cold, crushing darkness of the deep sea, there are creatures that seem to have crawled straight out of another age. They move slowly, deliberately, as though time itself has little meaning to them. Among these strange inhabitants is one that looks familiar in a way, yet alien in every other sense. It's called the sea spider. Despite the name, it's not a true spider at all. It belongs to a group of marine arthropods known as pycnogonids, and while they share some traits with their land-dwelling namesakes, their design is uniquely adapted to life in the ocean's depths. The first thing you notice about them is their legs, impossibly long and thin, stretching outward like delicate scaffolding. Their bodies, by comparison, are almost absurdly small, a central hub from which those legs extend in all directions. In shallow waters, sea spiders can be small enough to fit on your fingertip, but in the deep ocean, where pressures are immense and temperatures are near freezing, something remarkable happens. Some species grow to sizes that can startle even experienced scientists, their legs spanning more than 2 feet across. In the beam of a submersible's lights, they can look like skeletal walkers, drifting along the sea floor in eerie silence. These long legs aren't just for show, they are the sea spider's lifeline. Unlike most animals, the deep sea spider's tiny body doesn't have much space for complex organs. Instead, its legs do much of the work. They contain the digestive system, the circulatory system, even parts of the reproductive system. In a way, each leg is like a self-contained pipeline, moving nutrients, oxygen, and fluids through the creature's frame. Their thin, spindly shape means they can navigate tight spaces between corals, sponges, and rocks in search of food. And that search is slow, almost methodical. Sea spiders are scavengers and opportunistic feeders, which means they'll take whatever they can find. In the shallow sea, that might be soft bodied animals like anemones or sponges. In the deep, it could mean drifting detritus, the remains of small creatures, or scraps left behind by larger predators. Sometimes they can be seen crawling over the remains of a larger animal that has sunk to the sea floor, their legs moving like a dozen delicate probes as they pick apart morsels too small for most other creatures to bother with. The footage scientists have captured of them is mesmerizing in its strangeness. Imagine the camera's light sweeping across a barren stretch of seafloor, revealing a pale skeletal figure gliding on stilt like legs. Each step seems both cautious and confident, as though it has been walking these silent plains for millions of years. There's no rush, no sudden movements, just a quiet persistence, one measured step after another, as it traces invisible chemical trails or senses vibrations in the water. In some cases, multiple sea spiders have been filmed gathered in the same spot, each picking its way across a carcass or sponge colony. They don't fight for food the way sharks might. Instead, their slow feeding is almost ritualistic. A leg will gently probe a surface, the tiny mouthparts at the center of the body working patiently, extracting what little nourishment is available in this resource scarce world. Their ability to survive in such extreme conditions has fascinated biologists. In the deep, oxygen is limited, and most creatures rely on specialized systems to move it through their bodies. Sea spiders, however, have taken a different approach. They use their long legs not just for walking, but for absorbing oxygen directly from the water. The thin surface of the legs allows gas exchange to happen efficiently, a necessity when the body is too small to house complex respiratory organs. Even more curious is their reproduction. In some species, it's the males who take on the role of caretaker, carrying fertilized eggs on specialized appendages until they hatch. Imagine a spindly legged figure moving across the ocean floor with a delicate cluster of tiny translucent eggs attached to its limbs, each step a careful balance between protecting the next generation and finding enough food to survive. In the blackness of the abyss, these creatures appear almost mechanical, like something assembled from wire and glass. Yet they are alive, thriving in a realm where most life struggles to take hold. The deep sea species, in particular, seem to have escaped the size limits that keep their shallow water relatives small. Down here, with fewer predators and less competition, their legs have grown longer, their reach greater, allowing them to traverse wide expanses in search of sustenance. When filmed by deep sea submersibles, the effect is surreal. The camera follows them as they move across landscapes that seem empty at first glance, endless plains of silt and rock, punctuated by the occasional coral outcrop or sponge tower. Then, as the lens zooms in, you realize the ground is alive with subtle movement, a twitch of a leg here, a slow turn of the body there. The sea spider's slow progress is almost hypnotic, each step a reminder that in the deep, survival is not a race, but a patient negotiation with the environment. And as strange as they look, the sea spider is just one of many deep sea creatures that defy our expectations of what life should be. In these depths, shapes stretch, colors fade, and evolution takes paths that seem impossible, leading to the next creature whose very form seems designed to haunt the imagination. In the deepest parts of the ocean, far beyond the reach of sunlight, the seafloor can suddenly come alive with heat and color. Here, in the pitch black cold, there are places where the earth itself is bleeding warmth into the water. Hydrothermal vents, cracks in the crust where scalding mineral rich fluids gush into the sea. Around these vents, life doesn't just survive, it thrives in ways that seem almost impossible. It's here that the giant tubeworms stand like silent sentinels, swaying gently in the superheated currents. Each one can grow up to 8 feet tall, their long white bodies capped with blood red plumes that wave softly like underwater flowers. But these plumes aren't for decoration, they're part of an extraordinary adaptation, one that lets them live without a single ray of sunlight. Most life on Earth depends on photosynthesis, the process of turning sunlight into energy. But in the lightless deep, giant tubeworms rely on something very different: chemosynthesis. Inside their bodies, they host special bacteria that can turn the chemicals spewing from the vents, mainly hydrogen sulfide, into food. The worm provides the bacteria with a safe home and the raw materials they need, and in return, the bacteria provide the worm with all the nutrients it could ever need. It's a perfect partnership, one that allows these creatures to live in a world that would kill most other animals in seconds. Their plumes are bright red because they're packed with hemoglobin, the same oxygen carrying pigment found in human blood, though here it also binds to sulfides from the vent fluid. The plumes act like gills, pulling in seawater and vent fluid, delivering both oxygen and chemicals to the bacteria inside the worm's body. This exchange happens constantly, a silent conversation between worm and microbe that keeps both alive. When an ROV's lights sweep across a vent field for the first time, the sight can be overwhelming. Entire forests of tubeworms stretch across the landscape, their white columns standing tall, their crimson plumes glowing faintly in the artificial light. The surrounding rocks are coated with strange mineral deposits, shimmering blacks, rusty reds, pale yellows, laid down by the superheated water as it cools. Everything is in motion, vent fluids billowing upward like underwater smoke, tubeworms swaying in the currents, ghostly crabs and fish slipping between them in the shadows. The water here is a paradox, just inches from a vent's opening. It can be hot enough to boil over 700 degrees Fahrenheit, yet only a short distance away, it's freezing cold. The tube worms live in that narrow, dangerous boundary where heat and cold collide. If the vent output shifts even slightly, the entire community can be wiped out. But in the deep sea, life is built on risk, and these creatures have mastered the art of balancing on the edge. It's not only their size that's impressive, it's how quickly they can grow. In an environment where the right conditions might last only a few decades before geological changes shut down the vent, speed is essential. Newly formed vents can be colonized by tubeworms in a matter of years, and within just a few more, the worms can reach their full towering height. It's a race against time, played out in the slow, deliberate rhythm of the deep. Scientists have also found that giant tubeworms can live alongside other specialized creatures, vent crabs, deep sea mussels, and swarms of shrimp, forming ecosystems that are as complex as coral reefs, but in complete darkness. The worms themselves become habitats, their tall stalks providing shelter and feeding grounds for smaller animals. And when a worm dies, its empty tube becomes part of the structure of the vent community, a place for new life to take hold. The first time humans ever saw these creatures alive was in 1977, during the discovery of hydrothermal vents along the Galapagos Rift. The sight of huge red-tipped worms rising from the rocks stunned the scientific world, not only because no one had imagined such a thing, but because it rewrote our understanding of where and how life could exist. It proved that sunlight wasn't the only foundation for an ecosystem. Life could be built from the heat of the earth itself. In modern deep-sea expeditions, ROV footage captures their alien beauty in high definition. The camera drifts between towering stalks, the plumes swaying like fields of flowers in a windless world. The vent fluids shimmer in the background, distorting the light like heat waves in air. Sometimes you can see the faint flicker of small creatures darting through the worm forest, fish with pale, unseeing eyes, or translucent shrimp drawn to the warmth. The entire scene feels like stepping into another planet's biosphere, except this one is hidden in the depths of our own world. And yet, for all their size and resilience, giant tubeworms remain tied to the fate of the vents they call home. When a vent dies, the worms die with it. But new vents form elsewhere, and somewhere in the dark, tiny tubeworm larvae are already drifting in the currents, searching for the telltale chemical signature of a newborn vent, ready to start the cycle again, to grow tall in the shadows, and to stand among the strangest forests on Earth. Far below the waves, in the coldest and darkest corners of the ocean, the remains of a giant whale slowly settle onto the seafloor. Its long journey through the water is over. The echoes of its songs are gone. Now, in death, it becomes something else entirely. Not a lifeless body, but the beginning of a new world. As the carcass reaches the abyss, the silence is almost complete, broken only by the slow drift of particles in the water. To most eyes, it would seem like nothing could possibly live here, but in the deep sea, life waits with patience that humans can barely imagine. It doesn't take long before the first arrivals come. Strange, hair-thin worms with no eyes, no mouth, and no stomach. They are called zombie worms, and their purpose is singular, to feed on the bones of the dead. From above, they look delicate, almost like tiny red flowers blooming directly from the bone. Their plumes are feather-like, swaying gently in the invisible currents. But those plumes aren't for beauty. They're their gills, pulling oxygen from the surrounding water. The real feeding happens deep inside the whale's skeleton, out of sight. Zombie worms don't eat in any way we would recognize. They cannot chew or bite. Instead, their bodies are like living drills. They secrete acid through their skin that dissolves the bone, allowing them to dig inside. Once they're in, they release another one of their secrets. Hidden within their tissues are special bacteria living symbiotically with the worms. These bacteria take the fats and proteins trapped in the bone structure and break them down into nutrients the worms can absorb. It's a partnership as intimate as it is ancient. The worm cannot survive without its bacteria, and the bacteria cannot live without the worm. When a whale dies and sinks, it becomes what scientists call a whale fall, and the arrival of zombie worms marks a critical stage in that process. At first, the carcass attracts larger scavengers, sharks, deep-sea fish, and hagfish that strip away the flesh. Later, crabs and smaller predators pick it clean. But when almost nothing is left but bone, the zombie worms move in, covering the skeleton in dense colonies that can number in the thousands. In raw V footage, the sight is eerie and mesmerizing. A whale's ribs lie half buried in sediment, and every inch of exposed bone seems alive, bristling with waving crimson plumes. There is no rush, no frenzy, only a slow, patient dismantling of what once was a titan of the sea. Over months and years, the worms will turn that bone into something entirely new, recycling its nutrients back into the deep sea ecosystem. And they don't stop at whales. Zombie worms have been found on the bones of other large sea creatures too. Dolphins, seals, even ancient fossil bones pulled from the ocean floor. Anywhere there is a rich, fatty skeleton, they will find it. Scientists believe their larvae drift through the deep, carried by invisible currents, sensing the faint chemical traces that leaking bones give off. When they detect it, they settle, burrow in, and begin their silent work. There is something almost unsettling about their existence, the way they live entirely without the organs we think of as essential, the way they thrive on what others have left behind. Yet, in their own quiet way, they are vital to the deep. Without creatures like zombie worms, the bones of fallen giants might linger for centuries, locking away nutrients in a place where every scrap of food is precious. Their bodies are fragile, easily destroyed if removed from their deep sea home, which is why most encounters with them come only through remote cameras. Those cameras capture the strange beauty of the scene, a massive skeleton glowing pale in artificial light, overrun with delicate worms that sway as if breathing together. The darkness around them is absolute, but within their tiny plumes, life is still in motion, still finding a way. And just beyond the reach of the ROV's lights, there is always more. The whale's skull might be cradled in sediment, its jawbone stretching out like pale wings. The worms move across it in waves, leaving behind only faint traces of their passage. This is the deep sea's way of erasing, slowly, methodically, and completely. From the first large predators tearing into soft flesh, to the final, hidden bacteria inside a worm's body, breaking down the last molecules of bone. Nothing is wasted. It's a process of transformation as much as decay. The giant whale becomes food for creatures it will never see, and in doing so, sustains a web of life that survives where the sun can never shine. And in the stillness, in the unbroken dark, the worms continue their patient work, oblivious to the vast emptiness around them, a reminder that even in the most desolate corners of Earth, life finds a way to endure. In the far reaches of the ocean, where pressure crushes and light has long since surrendered, the seafloor stretches out in endless plains of shadow. It's a place few creatures move with speed, because here energy is a currency spent carefully. In the stillness, a strange figure stands alone, balanced delicately on three impossibly thin, extended fins, as if frozen in time. This is the tripod fish, one of the most patient hunters in the deep. It looks almost skeletal at first glance, its elongated fin rays stretching out like fragile stilts, lifting its body a few inches above the soft sediment. In the beams of a remotely operated vehicle, it appears pale and ghostly, its fins trembling slightly in the slow rolling current. This eerie posture is not the result of injury or fear. It's a deliberate way of living. While most fish swim to search for prey, the tripod fish waits. Those three extended fins, two pelvic and one tail, act as its name suggests, forming a tripod that plants firmly into the seabed. This allows the fish to hold completely still for hours, even in the faint push of abyssal currents that sweep across the ocean floor. The stillness is its advantage. By staying motionless, it becomes part of the scenery, an unremarkable silhouette in a world where predators and prey alike avoid wasting precious energy. From this fixed position, the tripod fish uses its long, wing like pectoral fins in an entirely different way. Instead of swimming, these fins stretch out in front like an open net. The current becomes its hunting partner, carrying tiny shrimp, plankton, and other drifting life directly into its reach. The moment something brushes against the sensitive edges of its fins, the fish reacts with startling precision, a quick snap of its mouth, and the prey is gone before it even knows it's been caught. Its eyes are small, but in this place, sight is hardly the most important sense. Instead, the tripod fish relies on touch, using its fins like living antennae. In the deep sea's eternal darkness, this method is far more reliable than vision. The fish doesn't need to chase, it doesn't need to see, it just needs to wait, letting the ocean do the work of delivering its meals. What's remarkable is that these delicate looking fin extensions are not fragile in the way they appear. They're stiffened and adapted to withstand the crushing pressures of depths that can exceed 15,000 feet. Here, the water is nearly freezing, the weight of the ocean above immense, and the distance from the surface so great that nothing from the sunlit world could survive without special adaptations. The tripod fish has shaped its entire existence to thrive in these conditions. Rare footage from deep sea expeditions shows them scattered sparsely across the abyssal plains, each one alone, spaced out like silent sentinels. In some clips, the ROV's lights catch the glitter of small particles drifting past, and you can see how the tripod fish tilts ever so slightly, adjusting its body to face into the current. It doesn't chase after the drifting particles, it simply adjusts its stance, like a hunter turning to face the wind. Sometimes the current shifts, and the fish will slowly pivot on its three fins, dragging them lightly through the sediment without ever breaking its still, poised posture. It's a strange, alien kind of grace. No frantic movement, no bursts of speed, just a quiet, deliberate repositioning before returning to its unshakable watch. In an environment where survival depends on conserving energy, this strategy is a masterpiece of efficiency. The ocean floor here offers little in the way of shelter or cover. It's an open, barren landscape, dotted with occasional rocks, worm tubes, or the remains of creatures that have drifted down from above. The tripod fish's pale, almost translucent body blends with this environment, making it all the more invisible to both predators and prey. Sometimes explorers have observed them in pairs, positioned in a way that makes them seem like mirrored statues. It's unclear whether this is coincidence or part of a mating behavior. So little is known about how tripod fish reproduce. The depths they inhabit make direct study incredibly challenging. But some scientists believe they may be hermaphroditic, possessing both male and female reproductive organs. In such a sparsely populated habitat, this would give them a significant advantage. Any encounter with another tripod fish could result in reproduction, no matter the sex of either individual. Watching them on camera, you can't help but feel the weight of time pressing in. Minutes pass without a single movement. The ocean's current whispers over the sediment, scattering grains into soft clouds. Then, suddenly the pectoral fins twitch, sensing a shift, and in an instant, the fish's mouth darts forward, closing over something invisible to the human eye. Just as quickly, it returns to its stillness, as if nothing happened. The tripod fish embodies a truth about the deep sea. Here, survival is not about dominance or speed, but about mastering the art of waiting. And in the black silence of the abyss, this strange three-legged stance has proven to be one of the most enduring hunting strategies nature has ever created. And not far from where one tripod fish holds its post, the seafloor hides other creatures, just as specialized for this slow, shadowed world, beings that turn even the bones of the dead into life again. In the deep ocean, where darkness presses in like a physical weight, some creatures have evolved forms so unusual they seem like they belong in dreams or nightmares. Among them drifts the spookfish, a relative of the barreleye, but with a shape and presence all its own. At first glance, it seems almost like a ghost suspended in the water. Its body is pale, almost silver, and its head is something you can see right through. The skin and tissue covering the top of its skull are completely transparent, revealing the soft outline of its brain and the delicate arrangement of its eyes. In the glow of an ROV's lights, the head dome reflects in shifting greens and blues, like a soap bubble floating in blackness. It's as though the barrier between outside and inside has been peeled away, letting you peer directly into the machinery of life. But the most striking difference between the spookfish and its barreleye cousins is its snout. It extends forward in a strange flattened shape, as though evolved for a purpose we still don't fully understand. It gives the fish an oddly pointed face, a profile unlike anything in the shallow seas. Scientists suspect the snout is covered in sensitive cells that help detect faint vibrations or electrical fields, letting the fish feel the presence of prey in water so dark that even bioluminescent glimmers can be rare. Its eyes are tubular, pointing upward to watch for silhouettes of animals drifting above, just like the barreleye. But the spookfish has another adaptation hidden in its gaze, a split vision system. One part of the eye looks upward, scanning for the faint outlines of creatures against the dim light filtering down from far above. The other part angles forward, ready to track anything moving in front of it. It's as if the spookfish is watching two worlds at once: the world above, where meals might descend from shallower waters, and the shadowed space in front, where danger might emerge without warning. Few people have ever seen a living spookfish. In fact, most of what we know about it comes from the rare moments when deep diving submersibles capture a few seconds of footage before the fish slips back into the dark. It moves with an unhurried grace, its body rocking slightly with each movement of its fins, as though the entire ocean is holding it in place. The transparent dome over its head seems to glow faintly under artificial light, giving it an almost ethereal presence. The most haunting thing about the spookfish is how alien it appears, and yet how clearly it is a product of its environment. In a place where light is scarce and predators lurk unseen, transparency can be a shield. By letting light pass through its head rather than bouncing off it, the fish becomes harder to detect from above, and by having a clear dome instead of an opaque skull, it allows its eyes a wider range of motion, free from the limits of bone. This means the spookfish can roll its gaze upward without turning its entire body, a small advantage in a world where even the faintest movement might alert prey or predators. The snout, too, may serve another purpose beyond sensing the presence of other creatures. Some researchers believe it could help the spookfish stabilize itself while hovering in deep currents, much like the keel of a boat keeps it steady in shifting waves. In the slow moving water of the mid and deep ocean layers, stability can mean the difference between catching a drifting morsel and missing it entirely. Every recorded encounter with this fish seems to carry a certain weight, as if the people behind the cameras know they are witnessing something that might not happen again for years. In the silence of the submersible cabin, there's often a pause. No one wants to break the stillness as the spookfish drifts into view. Its eyes, glowing faintly green, seem almost to return the gaze, though in truth they are fixed on worlds we cannot see. Then, with a gentle flick of its fins, it glides out of the frame, its transparent head fading into the black. Some species of spookfish have been found in the North Atlantic and Pacific, often at depths between 2,000 and 3,000 feet, though they may descend far deeper. Their range is vast, but their population density appears to be low, which explains why live footage is so rare. Most specimens brought to the surface lose their delicate head domes almost immediately, the sudden change in pressure destroying the fragile tissues. This means that the moments caught in deep sea footage are among the only times humans have ever seen the spookfish truly as it exists in its natural world. There's something quietly unsettling about it: the exposed brain, the silent drifting, the dual vision. It's a reminder that in the deep sea, evolution doesn't follow the rules we expect. Here, survival shapes bodies into strange, beautiful, and sometimes eerie forms, each one an answer to the challenges of a realm without sunlight. And not far from where the spookfish drifts, other creatures have evolved equally strange shapes, their bodies stretching into long flowing filaments that move like whispers in the water. Far below the surface, in the quietest reaches of the ocean, there are creatures that seem almost like drifting dreams. Among them is the giant sea cucumber, a name that hardly prepares you for the sight of one in motion. In the dim glow of an ROV's lights, it floats with slow, deliberate grace, its soft body twisting gently in the current. At first glance, you might mistake it for a piece of fabric or a fallen leaf carried along by unseen hands. But then it moves on its own, pulsing and shifting, and you realize this is a living thing, one perfectly adapted to life in a world without sunlight. The giant sea cucumber is one of the largest echinoderms in existence, a distant relative of sea stars and sea urchins. While most sea cucumbers are small and cling to the ocean floor, this deep sea giant can grow to over 6 feet in length, longer than most humans are tall. Its body is soft, flexible, and oddly alien, with skin that seems to change shape as it moves. The deep sea has taught it to be both fragile and resilient, for here survival means bending to the rhythm of the water rather than resisting it. What makes the giant sea cucumber so unusual is the way it responds to disturbance. If something startles it, a sudden current shift, a shadow passing overhead, or the vibration of a nearby predator, it can inflate itself like a balloon. This sudden swelling makes it appear larger and less appealing to anything that might consider it a meal. The inflation is slow but deliberate, almost hypnotic to watch, as though the animal is filling itself with the ocean's own breath. Once the danger passes, it deflates and continues its slow, drifting journey. Its skin is a pale, translucent white, sometimes tinged with soft pinks or purples depending on the light. Tiny papillae, small, fleshy protrusions, cover its body, helping it sense changes in the water around it. The mouth is a simple opening ringed with delicate feeding tentacles, which it uses to gather food from the sediment or the surrounding water. Down here, meals are scarce, and every drifting particle is precious. Unlike many other creatures of the deep, the giant sea cucumber often floats freely in midwater rather than crawling along the sea floor. It uses the ocean's slow currents as a kind of highway, letting them carry it across vast distances while expending very little energy. When filmed, it looks almost like a jellyfish, its body bending and curling as it moves, trailing faint eddies in its wake. This drifting lifestyle allows it to search for food over a wider range, and perhaps to avoid certain predators that patrol the bottom. Its feeding method is as gentle as its movements. The tentacles surrounding its mouth sweep slowly through the water, collecting organic debris, fragments of dead plankton, particles from decaying animals, and other microscopic nourishment that drifts down from the sunlit world above. It's a quiet existence, but in the deep ocean, this role is vital. The giant sea cucumber is part of a chain of life that recycles every scrap of energy, ensuring nothing is wasted in a place where resources are scarce. Filming one in its natural habitat is a rare event. The deep ocean hides its inhabitants well, and the giant sea cucumber's drifting, silent nature makes it even harder to find. But when an ROV's lights finally illuminate one, the result is mesmerizing. It turns in the slow water, its long body curling like a ribbon, the shadows of its folds shifting with every pulse of movement. Sometimes it glides past the camera without so much as a ripple, disappearing back into darkness as though it was never there. It's hard not to feel a strange calm while watching it. There's no urgency in its movements, no sense of panic or chase. It simply exists, suspended between the seafloor and the surface, living entirely at the mercy of the water around it. And yet, this life of drifting is not without challenges. Even here, predators lurk, fish, crabs, and other deep sea hunters that will take the opportunity if the moment is right. The giant sea cucumber's softness makes it vulnerable, but its ability to swell into a balloon, its drifting unpredictability, and the difficulty of spotting it in the vast black water all help keep it alive. Like so many deep sea animals, it feels both alien and familiar. There's something almost meditative about its slow journey, a reminder that not all survival is about speed or strength. Sometimes it's about patience, about letting the world carry you where you need to go. And in the same deep currents, not far away, are other creatures that move with that same hypnotic grace, but with shapes so unusual they could almost be mistaken for sculptures rather than living beings. Deep beneath the crushing weight of more than 2.5 miles of water, where sunlight has never reached, a tiny shape drifts in the blackness, and for a moment it feels like something out of a dream. Its body is soft and rounded, its eyes wide and curious, and from either side of its head extend two delicate fins that look uncannily like the floppy ears of a baby elephant. This is the dumbo octopus, one of the most enchanting and unlikely residents of the deep sea. At first sight, the resemblance to a cartoon character is almost disarming. In a realm filled with creatures that look fierce, spiny, or alien, the dumbo octopus seems gentle, almost playful. Its fins wave slowly, flapping in the water as if it were swimming through air. But this is no shallow water wanderer. This animal lives where the pressure is more than 1,000 times greater than at the surface, in a place where most life forms cannot survive. The dumbo octopus is a master of thriving in a world of extremes. Unlike many of its shallow water relatives, it doesn't have an ink sac, a detail that says a lot about its home. Ink clouds are useless in total darkness, where there is no light to block. Here, defense is not about quick escapes behind a black screen, but about moving quietly and unpredictably, vanishing into the endless water with the gentlest of strokes. Its body is adapted for this, gelatinous and flexible, able to withstand incredible pressure without collapsing. The dumbo octopus's movement is one of its most mesmerizing traits. Those ear-like fins aren't just for show, they are its primary mode of travel. By flapping them up and down, the animal propels itself through the water in a slow, rhythmic glide, sometimes adding gentle pulses from its webbed arms for extra control. The effect is hypnotic. In the beam of a remotely operated vehicle's camera, it looks like it is floating in slow motion, its every movement perfectly in sync with the surrounding water. Its small size adds to the sense of wonder. Most dumbo octopuses are no bigger than a foot in length, though a few rare individuals have been found reaching nearly 6 feet. Their skin can shift in color and texture, sometimes appearing smooth and pale, other times mottled or darker, depending on their surroundings and mood. In the deep sea, where hiding is often more about blending into the gloom than matching a pattern, these changes help them stay unnoticed by predators. When it comes to feeding, the dumbo octopus has a very different approach from the active hunters of the deep. Instead of chasing down prey, it often hovers near the seafloor or drifts along in open water, using its sensitive arms to detect tiny animals in the water or buried in sediment. Small crustaceans, worms, and other invertebrates make up most of its diet. When it finds something edible, it envelops it with its arms and guides it toward its beak-like mouth in the center of its body. Footage of these creatures is rare, partly because of their habitat. Living at depths of 13,000 feet or more means they are well beyond the reach of most submersibles and cameras, In fact, every recorded sighting feels like a small miracle, a fleeting encounter between human technology and one of the ocean's most elusive animals. When scientists do manage to film them, the reactions are often filled with awe. The dumbo octopus doesn't dart away in fear, but instead continues its gentle flapping, as if unbothered by the strange lights and metal machines in its path. They are also unusual in how they reproduce. In the deep sea, where encounters between individuals are rare, the dumbo octopus has adapted by always being ready to lay eggs. Females carry eggs in different stages of development, releasing them one at a time whenever conditions are right. Instead of laying them in a single large batch like many shallow water octopuses, this method ensures that some offspring have a better chance of survival in such an unpredictable environment. It's easy to see why the Dumbo octopus has captured so many hearts. In a world where most deep sea life is built for stealth, ambush, or intimidation, this little creature moves with an almost whimsical elegance. Watching it glide is like watching a paper lantern float in still air. No rush, no tension, just the slow, steady rhythm of a life perfectly suited to its surroundings. And in those same deep waters, not far from where these gentle travelers roam, there are animals that take an entirely different approach to surviving in the darkness, relying not on softness or charm, but on overwhelming size and an arsenal of strange adaptations. Far below the sunlit surface, where the ocean turns from deep blue to infinite black, there drifts a creature so ghostly it almost seems like it isn't there at all. The glass squid, true to its name, is nearly invisible, a living whisper in the water. Its body is so transparent that light from above passes straight through it, leaving only faint outlines of internal organs suspended in its gelatinous frame. At a glance, it can appear like nothing more than a shimmer, a distortion in the water, the way heat ripples over pavement. In this lightless world, invisibility is the ultimate defense. Many deep sea predators rely on spotting silhouettes above them, their eyes tuned to detect even the slightest shadow against the dim glow from far above. But the glass squid leaves them with nothing to see. Its skin contains almost no pigment, and the tissues are so clear that only a small silvery digestive gland and two luminous eyes betray its presence. Even these eyes are shaped in ways that reduce their visibility. One is angled upward to scan for threats from above, while the other looks downward, constantly watching for danger rising from below. The body of a glass squid is shaped like a balloon, rounded and bulbous, tapering into short arms and longer tentacles. This odd form helps it float effortlessly, conserving energy in a place where food can be scarce. Some species even store ammonia in their tissues, which makes them neutrally buoyant, allowing them to hang motionless in the water column without sinking or rising. In the deep sea, where sudden movement can betray your position, this ability to simply hover is as much a weapon as teeth or speed. Their transparency is not the only trick they use to disappear. Tiny light producing organs called photophores dot parts of their body, giving them a subtle glow that matches the faint light filtering down from above. This counter-illumination erases their shadow entirely, making them invisible to predators below. It is a living cloak of light, one that can be turned on or off depending on the situation. When danger is close, the glass squid can drift in perfect stillness, glowing just enough to vanish into the background. They are rarely seen, not just because of their camouflage, but because of where they live. Many species inhabit the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, thousands of feet below the surface. These are depths where remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, must navigate crushing pressure and near freezing water just to capture a few fleeting moments of footage. For scientists, Every encounter with a glass squid feels like catching a ghost. One moment it's there, and the next it melts into the dark. When filmed, their movement is strangely delicate. The glass squid propels itself with gentle pulses from its mantle, the same way other squids do, but the lack of color and the way light bends through its body makes those motions look dreamlike, as though the water itself is moving it along. In some species, the tentacles trail behind like faint threads, barely visible except for the way they sometimes catch glints of light. Despite their fragile appearance, glass squid are skilled predators in their own right. Their long tentacles are equipped with small hooks or suckers to snatch prey such as shrimp and tiny fish. They often rely on stealth rather than speed, drifting close before making a sudden strike. In the darkness, their prey rarely sees them coming. One moment, the water is empty, and the next, two long, nearly invisible arms shoot forward from nothingness. For young glass squid, survival depends on staying in the upper layers of the ocean, where food is more plentiful, but predators are also more common. Here, their transparency works overtime, allowing them to feed while remaining almost impossible to spot. As they mature, many move deeper into the twilight and midnight zones, trading the relative abundance of the surface for the safety of the abyss. In these deep regions, their ghostly invisibility becomes nearly perfect. Occasionally, they are spotted during vertical migrations, the nightly rise and fall of countless deep sea creatures following plankton swarms toward the surface under the cover of darkness. In those brief hours before dawn, a glass squid may glide upward through the black water, a flicker of movement that even the most watchful predators might overlook. Every so often, an ROV's lights will reveal one hanging in the water, motionless, as if it is trying to decide whether to flee or trust its own invisibility. The camera captures the faintest outlines of its internal organs, the shimmer of its mantle, the tiny spark of its eyes catching the artificial glow. Then, with a slow pulse, it drifts away until it fades completely, swallowed by the deep. And deeper still, in places where even fewer eyes ever look, live other creatures that have taken the art of hiding to a different extreme, not by vanishing, but by transforming themselves into shapes and movements that seem almost unreal. In the still, silent depths where sunlight has never reached, a strange figure moves with unhurried grace. Its body seems built for a different time, like a relic from an age before the world took its current form. This is the chimera, sometimes called the ghost shark, a creature that carries the blueprint of its ancient ancestors in every slow, fluid movement. While its name might suggest something imagined, it is very real, though it feels like it belongs more to a dream than to the living sea. The chimera is not a true shark, though it is related to them. Both belong to a lineage of cartilaginous fish, their skeletons made not of bone, but of flexible cartilage. This makes them lighter, more buoyant, and in the chimera's case, capable of moving as if the water is a part of them. But where sharks have evolved into sleek, fast hunters, the chimera has taken a different path, one of quiet endurance, adapting to a life of slow exploration along the seafloor. Its head is the first thing that captures attention. Unlike the flat or tapered snouts of most fish, the chimera's face is rounded, almost soft in outline, and dominated by large glassy eyes. These eyes are not only striking, but highly sensitive, tuned to capture the faintest flickers of light in the near complete darkness. In ROV footage, they seem to glow when caught in the beam like twin orbs that have witnessed centuries of secrets. Around its mouth, a small downturned curve gives it an almost melancholy expression, as though it is quietly contemplating the world around it. The body tapers into elongated wing like pectoral fins that sweep out from its sides. These fins are the source of its ghostly glide, allowing it to move without the jerking bursts of speed that many deep sea fish use. Instead, the chimera seems to fly underwater, each movement a slow, deliberate stroke that disturbs the water as little as possible. This quiet elegance is no accident. In a world where energy is precious, efficiency means survival. Though it moves with gentleness, the chimera is a predator. Its diet includes small fish, crustaceans, and mollusks it finds on or near the ocean floor. Its mouth, hidden beneath that soft looking head, is lined with tooth plates instead of sharp individual teeth. These plates are perfect for crushing shells and grinding the tough exoskeletons of deep sea prey. Sometimes the chimera will hover just above the sediment, gently stirring it with a flick of its fins to reveal hidden morsels, then dipping down to snatch them before they can escape. Its skin is smooth, often pale or mottled with subtle patterns, and in some species it carries a faint metallic sheen that catches light like brushed silver. The tail extends into a long, thin filament that trails behind like a ribbon, giving the impression of an unfinished sketch drifting in the dark. In motion, the entire creature gives off an air of fragility, though in truth it is a survivor, its lineage stretching back hundreds of millions of years, predating even the dinosaurs. Because they live so deep, often thousands of feet below the surface, chimeras are rarely seen alive. Most of what we know comes from brief ROV encounters or unfortunate captures in deep sea trawls. When filmed in their natural habitat, they often appear alone, gliding just above the seafloor as if they have all the time in the world. The sight can feel almost unreal, an animal from another era, unbothered by the passage of time, moving through a world that changes so slowly it might as well stand still. Some species have curious adaptations, like a retractable sexual organ on the forehead of males, a feature that, like so many in the deep, feels strange and alien to us, yet perfectly suited to the life they lead. Others have a slightly upturned snout or different fin shapes, subtle variations that help them thrive in specific deep sea environments. When an ROV's camera catches one in full view, there's often a pause from the crew. The way it glides, the way its eyes seem to look back at the lens, creates the uncanny sense that you're not just watching an animal, but being seen by it. That unshakable awareness lingers, as though the ghost shark carries some quiet understanding of the abyss that we can only guess at. And just beyond the shadowed patch of seafloor where the chimera drifts, other shapes stir, creatures that move with a purpose, so slow and deliberate they seem like part of the seabed itself, waiting for the right moment to come alive. Far below the surface, in a place where the water is so cold and clear it feels almost like glass, a small shimmering shape drifts into view. At first glance, it seems impossibly fragile, a tiny winged form with a body so transparent it could be mistaken for ice. Its wings, delicate and translucent, beat slowly, not like the frantic flutter of a bird, but with the measured grace of something that has all the time in the world. These are not wings for air, but for water, and this is the sea angel, a creature that swims as though it is flying through a silent, endless sky. The name sea angel sounds gentle, and in many ways it is. Watching one move is like watching a dream in motion. Its body is small, often just a few centimeters long, and shaped like a teardrop with flowing appendages that stretch out like tiny arms. The wings are actually extensions of its body, beating in rhythmic pulses that carry it forward in slow, graceful arcs. They catch and scatter any light that touches them, sometimes making the animal appear to glow softly from within. In the deep sea, this effect becomes even more striking. Their bodies can shimmer in the beams of remotely operated vehicles, or in some cases glow faintly on their own with a pale bioluminescence that drifts away into the darkness. But behind this delicate beauty lies a surprising truth. The sea angel is a predator. Despite its almost fairy like appearance, it lives by hunting. Its prey is often another kind of sea slug, known as the sea butterfly, which has a small shell and floats in the same cold waters. When a sea angel spots its target, the gentle flapping of its wings changes. It surges forward, moving with far more speed than its dreamy flight would suggest possible. From the folds of its body, special feeding appendages shoot out, almost like hidden arms, equipped with tiny hooks to grasp its prey. Once it has a hold, the sea angel uses its radula, a ribbon of microscopic teeth, to scrape away the soft flesh. It's a silent, efficient hunt, happening in the stillness of a world without sound. The way they feed can feel at odds with their appearance. There's something haunting about seeing such a fragile, glassy form become a focused, relentless hunter. But that's the reality of the deep ocean. Beauty and danger often live in the same body. The sea angel's transparent form isn't just for elegance, it's an adaptation. In the open waters where they live, there's almost nowhere to hide, so blending into the surrounding water is the best protection. To a passing predator, the sea angel is nearly invisible unless caught in just the right light. They are found in cold waters all over the world, from polar seas to deep subarctic currents. In the frigid polar regions, during the short summer months, sea angels can be seen in greater numbers, drifting in the water column during blooms of plankton and other life. Some species stay close to the surface during certain seasons, while others inhabit much deeper zones year round, making them rare to see without specialized equipment. Their movements are hypnotic. Each beat of their wings pushes them forward just enough to keep them from sinking, while small shifts of their body let them steer. Sometimes they simply hover, wings moving so slowly it's almost imperceptible, letting the currents carry them. In ROV footage, they often seem weightless, suspended in a way that makes it hard to tell if they are rising or falling, as if they are adrift in time itself. And while their bodies may be small, the role they play in the ocean's food web is significant. They help keep populations of their prey in balance, which in turn affects the many other creatures connected to that chain. But their own lives are precarious. They are also prey for larger fish, jellyfish, and even seabirds in shallower regions. In these moments, their beauty offers no protection. Survival depends on quick bursts of speed and the hope that their glass like form will vanish against the water. There is something almost otherworldly about the sea angel's presence. It doesn't move with the urgency of many deep sea creatures, nor does it have the jagged armor or sharp teeth we often expect from predators. Instead, it exists in the space between fragility and ferocity, between light and darkness. To see one drift past in the cold blue is to witness a living paradox, a hunter disguised as a dream. And in the depths where these tiny winged hunters move, other shapes are waiting, creatures that blur the line between the living and the spectral, their bodies nearly invisible until they choose to reveal themselves. Far out in the open ocean, where the water is a deep, endless blue, and the seafloor lies far beyond reach, a strange procession drifts silently through the currents. At first, it looks like a shimmering ribbon of glass, swaying and folding in the water. But as the camera draws closer, the truth comes into focus. This is not a single creature, but a chain made of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of living beings joined together in perfect formation. They are salps, and their united bodies form one of the most surreal spectacles in the ocean. Each salp in the chain is a small barrel-shaped animal, almost completely transparent, with a soft, gelatinous body that feels more like firm jelly than flesh. Alone, a single salp is already strange enough, delicate, nearly invisible, with no bones, no hard shell, and a body so simple you can see its internal organs suspended like faint shadows inside. But the most mesmerizing sight comes when they join together, connecting in long lines that can stretch for meters, drifting like underwater trains through the deep. The chains move with a gentle, rhythmic pulse, each salp contracting in turn to push water through its body. This movement not only propels them forward, but also feeds them. As seawater passes through, tiny plankton and particles are trapped and consumed. It's an elegant, effortless system, and in the stillness of the deep, the slow, steady pulsing seems almost like breathing. Rovie footage often captures these chains as they appear suddenly out of the dark, glowing faintly under the submersible's lights. In some cases, the salps themselves produce a soft bioluminescence, tiny sparks of blue or green that shimmer along the length of the chain like light strung across an invisible cord. In others, the glow is a reflection, catching and bending the light into strange, shifting patterns. Either way, it's a sight that seems more like something from a dream than a real living structure. What makes them even more astonishing is the precision with which they align. The bodies are perfectly spaced, facing the same direction, each working in unison with the others. It's not coordination in the way schooling fish move together. There is no mind controlling the chain, but rather a biological rhythm built into their very existence. They are individuals, yet part of something far greater, each one playing its part without hesitation. Some chains form loops or spirals, twisting through the water in shapes that seem impossibly deliberate. Others stretch out straight, drifting horizontally for as far as the eye can follow. In rare cases, divers and researchers have stumbled across salp chains so large that they disappear into the distance, their bodies shimmering like ghostly highways in the deep. Despite their delicate appearance, salps are powerful movers of life in the ocean. By filtering water constantly, they play an enormous role in cleaning the upper layers of the sea. In fact, during massive blooms, when salps appear in numbers so great they can seem to fill the water, they can filter vast amounts of seawater in a single day, removing tiny particles and trapping carbon that eventually sinks to the seafloor. For the surrounding ecosystem, they are both cleaners and food sources, nourishing everything from fish to sea turtles. Yet there is a fragility to their world. Salps depend on the currents to carry them, and they move at the mercy of the ocean's vast, slow moving rivers. In calm waters, they can float gently for days, swaying with the rhythm of the sea. In stronger currents, they drift farther, sometimes being pulled into depths where light can no longer reach them. There, their faint glow is often the only sign of life in the endless dark. For those lucky enough to witness them up close, salp chains are unforgettable. They don't dart or hunt or hide. They simply exist in a state of constant movement and constant feeding, living bridges between the microscopic world of plankton and the larger predators of the sea. There's something calming about their presence, the way they drift with such quiet confidence, unbothered by the vastness that surrounds them. And as these ghostly trains fade into the distance, the ocean's dark highways hold more wonders, shapes that seem to float between worlds, part creature, part illusion, waiting in the depths for their moment to be seen. Down in the depths, far beyond the sunlight's reach, the ocean holds a library of living secrets. We have just traveled through its pages, past the ghostly jellyfish, the nightmare mouth predators, the creatures so strange they seem born from another planet. Every one of them is real, Every one of them has been filmed alive, moving in its natural world, untouched by human hands. These are not sketches from an artist's imagination or monsters from an old sailor's tale. They exist right now beneath the surface, carrying on lives we barely understand. And yet, what we have seen is only the smallest glimpse. The deep sea covers more than half our planet, and most of it remains unexplored. Every year, new expeditions send submersibles into the dark, and almost every journey returns with something unexpected. A flash of movement no one can identify, a shape caught in the distance, too far for the camera to resolve. A fleeting moment when a strange, unfamiliar silhouette passes just beyond the lights and then is gone forever. It is a reminder that our knowledge is like a candle flickering in a massive pitch black cave. The light reveals incredible beauty and terrifying shapes, but beyond that glow stretches a darkness so complete we can't even guess at its contents. Somewhere out there, drifting in the endless water, there may be creatures stranger than anything we've yet seen, hunters larger than any we know, or forms so alien our minds wouldn't immediately recognize them as alive. The deep ocean does not give up its secrets easily. Pressure there is crushing, darkness is absolute, and the cold seeps into every living thing, and yet life thrives, not just barely surviving, but thriving, glowing, hunting, building colonies, and filling the water with its quiet pulse. The resilience of these creatures is almost more astonishing than their appearance. They endure where nothing should live, bending the rules of what life can be. When we watch them, the faint shimmer of a jellyfish bell, the slow undulation of a squid's arms, the mechanical tilt of a barreleye's eyes, we are looking at a language of survival written over millions of years. Every shape, every glow, every movement is a solution to a problem we can barely imagine. They are living answers to the question of how to exist in a place so hostile, so empty, and yet so full of hidden abundance. It's humbling to think that we share this planet with such beings, that while we walk on solid ground, going about our days under the open sky, entire worlds exist just a few miles below our feet. Worlds where sunlight has never touched, where the rules of our world no longer apply. It is not outer space. It is not science fiction. It is here and it is alive. And that leads to the most unsettling thought of all. If these creatures, with their ghostly shapes and impossible designs, are the ones we have discovered, what about the ones we haven't? The ones still hiding, too fast for our cameras, too deep for our lights, or too rare to cross paths with our brief expeditions. The scariest things in the deep may not be the ones we've shown you tonight. They may be the ones no human has ever seen. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these deep sea creatures unsettled you the most? Was it the ones that seemed harmless but weren't, the slow moving giants, or the sharp toothed hunters built for a world without light? Share your thoughts in the comments because the ocean's story is always richer when we tell it together. And if you want to keep exploring, if you want to keep drifting through this strange hidden wilderness, make sure you subscribe. There are more mysteries waiting, more strange shapes glowing in the dark, more encounters that will make you question what's possible on our own planet. The ocean still has secrets, and we're only just beginning to find them.